All right. I haven't done this in a while. I'm a little out of sorts here. Let's see. I'm going to change screens. I am going to be looking at some of my comic book stuff later. Yeah, I bought a new, hope that's fitting on the screen all right. I bought a new modern comic book that kind of caught my attention. Uh, Godzilla versus Hulk, #1. I am curious about this because I am a huge Godzilla fan. I talk about and think about Godzilla a lot, a hell of a lot. Uh, Duggan Camuncoli, Orlandini, and Blee. I have no idea who these people are. I have no idea whatsoever. But it's #1. I don't know if this is a variant cover or something, but the cover got my attention. It says Toho Corporation Limited trademark. So I knew Marvel had kind of jumped back into the Godzilla licensing ring a little bit. I think maybe my audio is too loud. Let me turn my mixer down a little bit. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I can only go by the OBS audio level indicator. But this cover got my attention. And I love that. I love that. That's my favorite style of Godzilla, because that goes back to the what is that? The Showa era Godzilla, where they became a lot more campy, and Godzilla became it became goofier and a little bit more over the top. Well, a lot over the top. You know, they had like, because that's some of my favorites: Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Godzilla versus Gigan, Godzilla versus Megalon. Those are all some of my favorite. Of course, when they came to the U.S., they had different titles. Godzilla versus Gigan was Godzilla on Monster Island. That made absolutely zero sense. A couple that came before those in the late 60s, early 70s, really early 70s, were kind of bad, like Godzilla's Revenge, Son of Godzilla. But, the ones in the 60s are classic, Monster Zero and all that. So, yeah, I'm a big Godzilla fan. Whenever I could, I picked the Godzilla book, the original licensed Godzilla Marvel book up in the 70s when I was a kid off the spinner rack. It wasn't my first priority. If I had already gotten the Spider-Man or the Avengers or the Hulk, that month, or the Fantastic Four that month, I might get a Godzilla or a Shogun Warriors or Micronauts or something like that. I was kind of this kind of caught my eye the other day. I saw it on Marvel Unlimited, but I can't read it off Marvel Unlimited, and it'll probably be another year before I can read it on Marvel Unlimited. So I went ahead and went to Comixology through Amazon, and I have an account there. So I went ahead and got it, and I don't buy new comic books that often. I've purchased some of the new GI Joe digitally and a few hard copies at the local comic shop. I only get out to the local comic shop maybe 3-4 times a year. So, if I miss out on any new stuff, it's really not that big a deal. Even though the new GI Joe and Transformers stuff is really good in my opinion. What's his face? Daniel Warren Johnson. I like him. He's one of the few modern guys that I like. So I have not looked at this. I literally just bought this like a half an hour ago. So I'm going to look at, I want to look to see, see what we're dealing with. This might be really bad, or it might be really cool. And then I might end up, collecting the series. So let's see how see if the Kindle's working here. Monstrous Marvel Mayhem. This one's a knockout. Okay. So we've got General Ross here. This is the old style Ross. Who's the actor they got in the MCU before Harrison Ford? I can't see Harrison Ford as General Ross. Who was the other guy? William Hurt? Yeah, I thought he was really good. I thought he was cast really well as General Thunderbolt Ross. Of course, in the original, the Ang Lee Hulk movie, it was what's his face? The guy, he was in Tombstone. God, damn, I can't remember these names. He played Wyatt Earp. He played Wyatt Earp's brother, one of Wyatt Earp's brothers in Tombstone. What's his name? I can't remember now. That's what happens when you get old. The memory goes. It'll come to me. So Thunderbolt Ranch. Okay. I'm not going to read it. I'll read it later. Let's see. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, they're going back to, they're doing a little, maybe the book's going to suck because if you have to revert back to the original Marvel. Now, wait a second. See, is that a Herb Trimpe Thor, or is that I know Herb Trimpe looked a lot like Jack Kirby, but I mean, he's really channeling Jack Kirby there with that Thor in the bottom corner there. I think maybe I can make this show up a little better. But this is cool, this little Avengers versus Godzilla. Yeah, because in the last issue of the original Godzilla run, that was who wrote that? Was it Bill Mantlo? It was either Doug Minch or Bill Mantlo that wrote that, and Herb Trimpe was the artist. Herb Trimpe drew really cool, like, military vehicles. I wasn't crazy about the style of Godzilla that they. I didn't really like the Godzilla depiction in those earlier. I mean, you had to live with it because that's all you had in comic book form. If you wanted to look at Godzilla, I like the guy in the rubber suit. I'm sorry, I prefer the guy. I prefer the cheesy guy in the rubber suit over the CGI Godzilla stuff, especially in Godzilla 1998. Oh, that sucked. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. Giuseppe Comunicole Penciler? Never heard of him. I've heard of Jerry Duggan. Is it Gary Duggan or Jerry Duggan? I've seen him before. Not super familiar, though. I like that, but I like that. Oh, you got the Vision back there and Iron Man and Thor. You got Spider-Man here seeing, oops, I'm late to this party. I like that. I remember that issue. I was sad when they lost the licensing back. The licensing expired, the Toho. But here's, see the Human Torch down here. You can't see it on my screen, but the Human Torch, I can see it on my screen. Just can't see it on the window capture here. Let me go in and change the sizing a little bit. See, I'm barely off. That's a little better. There we go. It's not going to be perfect. Yeah, I can look at this for like a half an hour. It's pretty cool. There's the Fantastic Car. Yeah, they brought out like all of the Marvel Universe. I liked how they had the crossover with the Marvel Universe. There was some cool storylines. They shrunk Godzilla down and he went to Seattle, and then they shrunk him down, and then he battled like rats in the sewer. That's pretty neat. Oh, I'm seeing wow, I'm seeing Mothra. What's the giant spider? Kumanga. Kumanga is the giant spider. Yep, the giant spider had trapped the mild-mannered Mothra. Mothra would whoop Kumanga. Just my opinion. Who is this? Oh, Dr. Demonicus. They're bringing back the nostalgia here. Dr. Demonicus. He was kind of one of the antagonists in the original Godzilla series. So yeah, they've got my attention. That's pretty cool. My Kaiju Incinerator. Yeah, I'm kind of digging this. Yeah, give me those old kaiju Toho kaiju monsters. Mothra, Kumanga. We'll see if they have King Ghidorah, Gigan, all those Baragon, all of those cool. Be cool to see like Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus. Hell yeah. I'm digging it. I was never a big fan of Rodan. I was like, he doesn't do anything. He just kind of flies around and grabs Godzilla by the tail. Or King Ghidorah by the tail. Another really wimpy one is Anguirus. Anguirus always got his butt kicked. But I'm liking this. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this. See, now, this is the Godzilla style that I like. Right here. I like the look of the guy in the rubber suit. I'm unapologetic about it. I do not care. Oh, the CGI. I have a friend. Oh, the CGI for Godzilla is so cool. Is it? Is it really? Because it still doesn't convince me. I mean, I would rather just have the silliness of the guy. And I know it's 2025, but I'd much rather than watch the new ones. I'd much rather just go back and like have a good time laughing and getting excited about the battles in the old ones, and the ones in the 70s. I'm sorry. Banner, meet me in the barn. That looks like a word balloon that I would use. Now that's this face right here. That's the Godzilla. That's my favorite Godzilla right there. That's what I like. Oh, this dude is controlling Kumanga. Ignore Mothra, attack Godzilla. Oh, that's cool. How did not Godzilla get knocked down? But oh, that's Mecha Godzilla. I just noticed that. Duh. They got two Mecha Godzillas. There's Kumanga. The rebuilt Mecha God. Oops. I hate when I do that. Oop. The rebuilt Mecha Godzillas should be more than enough. And the performance of these machines. I need my glasses on. Performance of these machines have been vastly improved by Tony Stark. No longer do we need to remote pilot them. Hey, that's pretty cool. May Stark rest in peace. Now they're going by the MCU. But I'm not up on modern comic books. Something might have happened. Who knows? Who knows? But perhaps his genius intellect will help us finally be rid of this scaly curse. I think Mechagodzilla is more of a curse than... I'm not even going to try to do the Godzilla roar, but I'm liking the radioactive breath. The heat so they're piloted. The Mechagodzillas are being piloted? Okay. The heat can barely stand it. So he does some mouth missiles. See, the original Mechagodzilla had like knee missiles, toe missiles, finger missiles. Yeah, I had to do it. Yeah, right. Then his neck could spin around to generate a force field. But this guy right here is controlling with some kind of device on his hand. He's controlling Kumang. Oh, it's Dr. Demonicus. Okay. He's controlling the... Make sure Godzilla's ensnared in your webs. So he's starting to put his webbing on Godzilla here while the Mechagodzilla's... Press the advantage. There is no tomorrow. This is Thunderbolt 1. He's knocking me into the damn spider. Oh, he used his tail. Okay, you can barely see it, but he's gonna try to stomp him, but he smacked him with his tail. That's kind of a weird panel. Get in the game, Banner. I can't handle this all by myself. I was gonna say, isn't this Hulk? They don't advertise that he's fighting Mechagodzillas and all this stuff and Kumanga. This is Banner. Thunderbolt 2 is being disarmed. Wow, Godzilla's just smoking these Mecha Godzillas like nothing. Oh, he's just fried. Demonicus, do something. This monster has taken out both of our Broncos. You said you had a failsafe. Time to empty the gun, Doc. So Demonicus takes off his mask and then he's like hideous. Okay. I've also been creating life. It is the new monster, one that will cull the kaiju forever. Is it Biolante? Kind of looks like Biolante coming out of there. Oh, Hedorah, the smog monster. The horrible amalgam of monsters. Behold, Hedorah. I said Hedorah. It's actually Hedorah. Not Ghidorah, not King Ghidorah, but Hedorah. The smog monster. Yeah, that's one of the 60s. That's one of the late 60s. They were on the old environmental pollution and Tokyo's pollution and everything. So they had to do this. They did that movie as like a social commentary on pollution and all that garbage. I think that's kind of an underrated Godzilla movie, though. I kind of liked it. It kind of had some I don't know, the real life part of it. They had some of those psychedelic scenes and from like the late '60s going on. I didn't really like that part of it, but overall, I liked the monster. I thought the design of the monster was cool, like a sludge monster. But I liked the big eyeball. He could also transform into like a flying disc thing. So here's Banner. Banner is, I'm not sure where Banner is here. I think he's still in one of the Mecha Godzillas. So they have Banner in one of the Mecha Godzillas. Okay, that's pretty cool. But he's sitting here and now he's going to transform into the Hulk. Now this is going to be interesting. Oh, I like that drawing of the Hulk. I think that they're trying to. They're definitely trying to draw the Hulk like the Ed Norton movie Hulk as much as they can. Yeah, especially with this face down here. Hulk hate puny Banner. Oh, he smoked the smog monster in the eye. Hiding down in your metal suit, pretending to be strong like Hulk. Don't know what's more humiliating, that you laughed at me or you're saving my bacon. Oh, that's Thunderbolt Ross. Okay. I'm not hating this so far. This is kind of cool. Hulk smash all monsters. They're definitely going with more of a look for Hulk that's been in the movies here, in my opinion. It's kind of a cross between the Ang Lee Hulk and the MCU Hulk. Hulk hate Big Lizard, but not as much as Garbage Monster. Hulk hand hurt. So he got fried by the toxicity of the smog monster. You can't fight Hedorah. He's the perfect creation, a child of my superior intellect and the DNA of hundreds of monsters slain by the thunderbolts, by the T-bolts. Can you hear me, though? What's left of Mechagodzilla's Hulk? Or what's left of the Mechagodzilla's Hulk? I want to know that soon you'll be as dead as Godzilla and all the rest. So let me guess. Godzilla. I mean, Hulk ends up teaming up with Godzilla in the end of this stuff. But you all say Hulk is a monster, but am wrong. Maybe your dumb mouth was wrong about Godzilla too. Yeah, there we go. Hulk saw Banner tickle Hart with electricity once, so he's given. Okay, he's putting an electrical cable. He's zapping Godzilla's heart. Just, uh-oh. Grab your reins tight, dear reader. The eyes on Godzilla are now gamma green. Uh-oh. Hulk blood help lizard. So he's infusing the electrical wire and he's giving him a dose of his gamma radiated blood. Okay. Now you're starting to whoa. Hulk Godzilla. Now it's Godzilla's turn to smash. I like the drawing. They're kind of going off the deep end here. Now it's Godzilla's turn to smash. So a gamma Godzilla. Oh, he just blew him apart with his breath. I like the art. I think the art's pretty cool. Can't say I'm crazy about. I thought this was Godzilla versus the Hulk, not Godzilla Hulk team up. And that's exactly what happened. So the radiation takes a toll on any being. Even Hulk and Godzilla, both monsters collapsed as their gamma rages subsided. So Godzilla walks away. I wouldn't make Godzilla angry. The end? Okay, we monsters stick together, Ross. I don't have any choice about the monster in me, but you can give yours up, Ross, if you're strong enough. Uh-oh. And it looks like Ross in this panel, final panel down here. Let me move it up. I've cut it off. He's crushing the gun. So it's going to be Red Hulk. So Red Hulk is going to be into the mix after a while. Because it looks like Ross is starting to rage at the end there. Not crazy about the visual storytelling here with the crushing of the gun. That panel should be bigger. If they're trying to make an impact on that, that panel should be bigger and more prominent on the page. If that's kind of their cliffhanger. I mean, it's not really a cliffhanger, but and you see Mothra and Kumanga like Hulk free big dumb spider. Hulk knows pain of humans using Hulk. And the monsters go away. You see a good size difference here. I mean, Godzilla actually would be bigger than that. The Hulk's what, about 12 feet tall? Is he that tall? He's not that tall, is he? 10 feet, maybe? I don't know. 9 feet? I guess it depends. Depends on what you're, depends on who's drawing the book, who's writing the book. But, I mean, Godzilla's at least 300 feet tall. He'd be a lot taller in comparison here in this. But I understand they're kind of trying to make a little bit of Godzilla's trying to make eye contact with Hulk here a little bit. So, that's not terrible. It's better than a lot of stuff Marvel's been coming out with. I just don't get. I thought it was actually going to be Godzilla versus Hulk, but actually it's the Hulk Godzilla team up. Oh, what do we have here? Oh, man. Now, what? Why did they have Okay. So they're doing a throwback, kind of a throwback retro variant editions. The Army Want to Fight Hulk, Godzilla, the one that destroyed town. Okay. They're making that Godzilla look much more like Herb Trimpe's Godzilla from the late 70s. Much more. I think Herb Trimpe drew every single issue of that except like one. I think there's one that he didn't he didn't draw. I could be wrong about that. The heavyweight champion of the world, the Incredible Hulk, and they're using the old style Hulk logo here from the 70s versus Godzilla. The heavy hitters. King of the Monsters, the Jade Giant, one must fall. And then they have one, Four Claws of Death, but that's Jet Jaguar. Why would that be a variant? Or is that upcoming? It says number 1, Godzilla versus Hulk. They should have had Jet Jaguar in the issue. That would have been cool. Now in the bottom here, they're using the original Godzilla logo. They're really going for the retro, the nostalgia here. Ed McGuinness. Okay. Classic variant. Monster homage variant. Nick Bradshaw. What's the monster homage variant? The Versus variant right here. Lee Garbett. Nick Bradshaw. Niraj Menon. The monster. I like that. Except Jet Jaguar's not in the freaking book. Ed McGuinness, Cliff Rathburn, and Laura Martin. Foil variants. Godzilla versus Hulk. And then the homage variant. The original here. With the Godzilla logo. Where Hulk is the same size as Godzilla. And they're fighting on the cover. I don't know. I like the one up here with Jet Jaguar. That's cool. But I like Jet Jaguar anyway. All right. Maybe if I go to my local comic shop and he's got some of these still, I might get a variant. I might get one of the variant copies. Who knows? Next, it's going to be Godzilla versus Spider-Man on sale April 30th. That's coming up. And you've got half of the black suit, and you've got. So I'm sure Venom is going to be. So they're doing all number ones. That's tricky, Marvel. Very, very tricky, Marvel. They're doing all number ones. Godzilla versus Hulk number 1. Godzilla versus Spider-Man number 1. See, this should be number 2 because it should be Godzilla. The Godzilla versus the Marvel Universe editions, and then Hulk was the first edition, and Spider-Man could be number 2, the Avengers could be 3, or Thor, or, Iron Man, Captain America. How is Spider-Man going to battle? I mean, they're going to have Venom in there, I'm pretty sure. Interesting. That's next. That is not out yet. I might pick that up. So that's it. Page 30. So that is all. And they've got this on Amazon on the link. They've got this listed under manga. Another trick. Okay. So that was Hulk versus Godzilla, number 1. I mean, that's pretty lame to do. to do all number ones. I mean, that's kind of their bag right now anyway. Let me bring up, I've had some discussions lately on X about this Fantastic Four movie. I'm going to bring up, and I've been kind of having a back and forth on X against some of these dudes. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Here we go. All right, we've got a, yeah, let me make this a little bigger. Oh, yeah. Of course, they had the final. The Fantastic Four movie is coming out in July, and I'm not real. I may go see it. I've been saying that like about it. I said that about Deadpool Wolverine, and I actually had tickets to see that, but my mom actually died on the day that I had tickets. That I had pre-purchased a ticket at our local theater that's just about a mile from my house. I was just going to walk over there and go to it. It was on a Sunday afternoon, but that just happened to be, I got the notification that my mom passed away. So once I got off work in the afternoon, on Sunday, I had to like take care of a bunch of family business, and I just had to let my Deadpool Wolverine go. I ended up buying the movie. It was all right. I mean, I enjoyed it. It wasn't quite as good as like a lot of people were like, oh, it's so great. And I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong, especially compared to the stuff that the MCU's been coming out with lately. I'm going to talk about that. But the Fantastic Four trailer, I'm spitting all over the screen here. Fantastic Four trailer. There's an account named Hype Engine. Who's gonna say it? And I guess in the trailer they have a short little scene, like a little 2-second scene where I might even bring up the trailer and look at it. The Thing is like towing a big ship in the harbor. I'm assuming this is like Hudson Bay, New York. I don't know. But and they're like, well, how can he be towing this with this big anchor chain? So I was going to look at some of the comments. Let me see if I can bring up some of the comments here. Because he's like, who's going to say it? Like, this is their, God, I got 21.9 million views. This is my comment. The people in these comments, it's a comic book movie, and they're worried about physics. People fly in comic book movies. G's, get a life. Now, I understand what they're saying. I'm not totally dismissive of, but you got to kind of pick your battles. There's way more things that are turning me off to what I've seen for trying to get excited about the new Fantastic Four trailer. And this isn't one of them. Like, I can let stuff like this go. This is nitpicking. I mean, in every Superman movie, he rescues somebody Lois Lane is falling out of a building, and he rescues her. The force of that, after she's been falling for 10 seconds, she'd be going over 200 miles an hour. Like, I forget what terminal velocity is, but once you fall for like 6 seconds, you don't fall any faster, but you've reached peak velocity of gravity, and the impact alone, just the sudden stop, would kill anyone that Superman catches. I mean, it would rip a human apart. It'd break her spine. But we let that stuff go because it's a comic book movie. The guy's flying, for crying out loud, all right? Yeah, sure, it makes sense within the universe that you're talking about, within the story, because he's a Kryptonian. He can fly. He can defy gravity, right? A lot of these super beings in comic book movies defy physics. Like there's old Fantastic Four comic books where the Thing is battling on the ocean floor against Namor or Atuma or the Serpent Society or what have you. You know, when you go hundreds of feet below the water, it's pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. So how could they battle? But they don't depict that in the comic books because it's a comic book. So the people that are disgusted by this picture here of Ben Grimm, the Thing towing this big ship. And when I'll show like one of the comments, somebody made some kind of ridiculous hypothetical, but I'm going to look at some of the other comments here. Bro, he's literally a mutant. He's a fucking mutant. What the fuck with the physics? You all are going crazy just to criticize something. I agree with this guy. I mean, yeah, don't go too ridiculous with it, but are you really going to pick the movie apart because it shows... I mean, Godzilla swims from Monster Island to Japan, and he's not touching the ocean floor. So the Thing can swim. In the comic books, he could swim. He was in water all the time. They were battling villains on the water all the time. Like I said, Namor, Atuma, Serpent Society, on and on. So it's not that big a deal, guys. Really. There's more things to be upset about the Fantastic Four movie than this. But anyway, I said this when Zack Snyder did it. Even if someone was strong enough to pull a ship by the anchor chain itself isn't strong enough to do this. All anchor chains have a weak link deliberately installed in them as a safety precaution. This is ridiculous. And 1.7 thousand people like hearted this comment. And 47 retweeted. So you're upset about the Fantastic Four movie because you think the chain would break because the Thing is towing the big ship in the water. You think the chain would break. So that's the hill you're dying on, that you're upset. Silver Surfer is female in 6 comic issues. He's a male in almost 600. Shut up, woke tards. I agree with that. I've been arguing about the Silver Surfer thing also. I'll get to that. Disney is run by mentally unstable Marxists pushing imaginary social issues. Nobody cares, Disney. Go bankrupt faster. Yeah, okay. That really doesn't have anything to do with... I want arguments that are like... I was looking at arguments of why they're condemning this movie because of just stupid reasons, when there's actually legitimate reasons to be weary of how this movie is going to do. Here's one of them, in my opinion. You're going with the female Silver Surfer. That's a terrible idea, in my opinion. Guys, it's not real. It's a movie. Relax. Now, I understand this is a little extreme the other way. Yeah, I can understand. I mean, Superman flew hundreds of times around the earth and changed the direction of the earth in the Superman movie. And that's a critically acclaimed comic book movie, considered one of the best all-time comic book movies. And when I was a kid, I was like, that's kind of dumb, but it made sense for the story. They had to make him be able to go back in time to save Lois. So, it's a plot device. The Thing hauling this right here might be some sort of just plot device. Who knows? It's not that, like I said, it's a freaking comic book fantasy film. I'm not going to get upset about that. That's not what's going to put me over the edge of not seeing it. This guy, he's not that strong. Couldn't happen even in the comics. The Thing is pretty powerful in the comic books. He's not Hulk level, but he's fought the Hulk. He didn't fight the Hulk to a standstill. He got beat down, but he can hold his own for a little while against some of the most powerful. He can hold his own against for a little while against like Wonder Man. He can hold his own against Namor. Namor is one of the strongest MCU characters. He's held his own against Thor for a little while. Yeah, he could. He could. He definitely could. I think he can pull the. Maybe not. Maybe if the boat was like dry docked, he couldn't. But if if it's floating on water, and he might be able to tow it. I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Yeah, the Thing isn't all powerful. He's not Hulk level powerful, but he is very powerful. He is strong. I mean, look at some of the old battles with Namor. I might look at some of those. I might look at some of those older issues where he's underwater battling Namor. How long are his legs? How deep is the water? Rocks float? This is retarded. Well, in the comic book, he fights underwater all the time. I'm not going to see it because the Thing has never been this strong in the comic books, and the girl Silver Surfer is cringe. I don't think Shala Bal as Silver Surfer is cringe. I just think it's it's not being optimal. It's not optimizing your chances of the movie being successful. So anyway, you get the idea, and then they do a Godzilla thing where Godzilla swim? Well, he's a reptile. I hope he can swim. Crocodiles don't touch the bottom of the swamp, but they can swim. Yeah, the Thing can swim. He's not just rock. He's got a rock hide, but I mean, he's actually powerful. If you can withstand depths of the ocean, hundreds of feet down, you're powerful enough to swim, for crying out loud. Everyone complaining about the physics of fictional superhero movies is dumb. Yeah, I said it. To a certain extent, yes. I would agree with that. Jack Sparrow is the blueprint. Anyway, that's kind of the back and forth. I just said, look. So somebody replied to me, this is the ridiculousness of getting in these arguments. I just said to people in these comments, it's a comic book movie, if that's your problem, then maybe comic book movies aren't for you. If physics don't matter, would it be okay if he were standing on top of the water? See, that's just a ridiculous hypothetical. So I commented back, I never said physics don't matter. Of course, the response is always some ridiculous hypothetical. Many times in comic books, the Thing is battled on the ocean floor, performing incredible feats of strength. The movie may suck, but I give a little of the ridiculous some leeway. That's kind of what sums it up for me. Yeah. Anyway. I mean, if the guy can fight Namor under the water, he can tow a ship on the surface of the water. Okay. Maybe he's standing on one of the Invisible Woman's floating. Maybe there's a force bubble underneath that the Invisible Woman is generating. The movie's not out. We don't know. We don't know yet. There's other reasons to be skeptical about the movie. So far, I think the movie. I like the movie trailer. I might even bring it up. I just kind of scanned through it when I watched it. I didn't really sit and really analyze it. Let's see what this. Let's go back to the Fantastic Four thing. Because the big argument is the Silver Surfer. Here's a guy on X. Grown-ass men upset that we got a baddie Silver Surfer. A baddie Silver Surfer. That's not why I'm upset. I love female superhero characters. Some of my favorite superhero characters are female characters. Scarlet Witch is one of my all-time favorite Marvel, all my all-time favorite comic book characters. Just look at her. She's awesome. I love her abilities. I love everything about the character. I always have. When I was a little kid, I loved the Scarlet Witch. I used to draw the Scarlet Witch all the time. One of my all-time favorite characters. It's not about, I mean, I love Storm too. I love Rogue. Rogue's my favorite female X-Men character. I like female characters. But there's a time and place to make changes and to not make changes. Grown-ass men upset we got a baddie Silver Surfer. I'm looking at the context of the situation. So I started a discussion here with this guy. When the FF first encountered Galactus in the comics, Norrin Radd was the Surfer. Why not just remain comic book accurate? There's no upside for the change as it concerns the hardcore fandom that wants the classic comic book details depicted as accurate as possible. Of course, they're always gonna veer a little bit. I would rather them err on the side of being accurate to the comic book. And I think a lot of the fandom feel the same way. But here's the situation. This isn't the MCU back in 2019. The MCU has been in a tailspin. It's been in a nosedive. They took their audience for granted. They just said, okay, Endgame, made how many $1 billion. They just thought, oh, it's all smooth sailing from here. You can't take the audience for granted, and that's what they've done the majority of times. There's been a couple decent movies since Endgame, but the way they built from the original Iron Man movie to Endgame, they should have stuck with that formula, and they veered from that formula. Now is not the time to throw in curveballs. Now's not the time to bring in the unknown. This Fantastic Four movie, I'll just read what I put. Shia LaBeouf has been in the comics since 1968. Yeah, I know that. Shia LaBeouf has been in the comic books since 1968. She's not been the Silver Surfer since 1968. She's only been a Silver Surfer. She only got imbued with the power cosmic to become a Herald of Galactus for a handful of issues. Yeah. And this Fantastic Four is an alternate timeline. Okay. Do you know that for sure? I mean, who cares if it's an alternate timeline? I know it takes place back in the 60s, and for some reason, the Fantastic Four in the MCU doesn't exist anymore for the MCU timeline, but this takes place in the 1960s, to my understanding of the movie. Very likely, they lose to Galactus and end up in the main MCU timeline with a different Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd. Okay, you're worried about down the road, and the critical time for the MCU is right here and now. This is Game 7 of the World Series. If the Fantastic Four movie flops, there may not be any more MCU. They may end up scrapping Avengers Doomsday and all that. They might scrap it. It's been done before. Are they going to go down the road of the DC cinematic universe? They had plans on that. They've scrapped it. The MCU, if they keep losing, these movies are expected to make lots of money. They're just not doing this because they're bored. They're looking to make billions of dollars off this stuff. They made billions in the past. There's movie executives that are going, why aren't we making billions now? We were doing it before. Now is not the time to throw curveballs. This is Game 7 of the World Series. You're in the 9th inning. You've got to bring in your studs now. Now is the time to bring in the sure thing. The old Fox Fantastic Four movies, didn't fail because they had Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer was one of the best parts of that movie. Those movies failed because they didn't get the villains right. The villains sucked. They didn't have Galactus. They had a cloud. Why not show Galactus? There's no upside to not showing Galactus. I don't get it. You've got movies, you have to get them now. You can't be going, well, we're just gonna do some horse shit right now, and then it'll make sense 3 movies from now. That's not the way movies work. They have to show the box office now. They can't take the chances. Comic books can take some liberties now because 6 months down the road, they can come with the big guns. They can course correct. Movies can't course correct. There's too much time involved. There's too much of a gap. There's way too much time involved. Now is the critical time. It's all hands on deck. They have to perform now. There's no upside to having a female Silver Surfer. Nothing. If this, they bring in the Norrin Rad Silver Surfer, they bring in Galactus, it's all hands on deck. You bring the big guns in, you wow the audience now. It pays dividends down the road. Then you might be able to throw in a female Silver Surfer. Then you might be able to get a little bit of leeway. The audience might throw you a little rope. Don't go too far, like they have. But yeah, I said zero upside to changing beloved characters, especially since the stakes are so high for a movie to do so well. Why not hedge their bets and go with the horses that got you there in the first place? Leaks have, so this person responds to me. Let me scroll this up here. Leaks have already confirmed this universe is being destroyed. Either this film or Doomsday. There may not be a Doomsday. And they'll migrate to the main 616, where Rad is likely to be the main Silver Surfer. This is literally a side story, not worth getting worked up over. Oh, really? If this movie flops, will the execs get worked up over it? Eventually, you keep going flop after flop after flop. Somebody's losing their job, and yes, the movie studio execs are going to get worked up over it. Now, I'm not saying this movie's going to fail because there is a female Silver Surfer, but it's not a good start. You want to start, it's starting behind the 8 ball a little bit. So I respond, so risking putting off the fan base currently to satisfy some future plot for a future movie that may never see the light of day. Gotcha. Yeah, that's a beautiful strategy. If the Fantastic Four movie flops, and I hope it doesn't, which I sincerely hope it's kick-ass, because I love the Fantastic Four. Future MC is on very shaky ground. It's already on shaky ground. It's not making, that last Captain America movie was the nail starting to go into the coffin. This one flops. The FF flops. They got 3/4 of the nails in the coffin. You think they're going to risk losing hundreds of more millions of dollars on Doomsday? Especially this day of social media. It wasn't like when I was a kid in the movie. You had to go see the movie, whether you liked it or not. Now it's not the case. If they come out of the gate and a lot of these reviewers and just on social media, if the word of mouth is bad, your movie is your movie's done. Because people won't spend the money to go out. It's too expensive. They'll, movies were 25 cents. Movies were 25 cents, 50 cents, 75 cents when I was a kid. And they weren't making as many, there weren't any alternatives. We didn't have TikTok. We didn't have the distractions. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have there wasn't independent filmmakers. If you wanted to go to the movies, you had to see something that was coming out. There's too many options today to be rolling the dice on a female Silver Surfer. Why not make Galactus a cloud again? Why not? There's a million things. It still boggles my mind. Now, I think I know what they were doing on the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie. They were trying to be mysterious. I think Galactus was in the center of that cloud. But you have to tease, like in Jaws, you have to tease the shark a little bit. You can't just constantly pan your camera out to the ocean and say, oh, there's a shark out there somewhere. You've got to tease the shark a little bit, whether it be on the movie poster. They couldn't have had like an image of Galactus's helmet sticking out of the cloud a little bit. Just throw the fans a bone. Now you've got them hooked. The after credit scenes in some of those movies, the early MCU movies, like at the end of the Avengers when they teased Thanos, you got a glimpse of him, and they changed him a little bit. They changed the look of him a little bit, the CGI of him a little bit, but that teaser right there was all they needed. The Fantastic Four movie, there might have been a third movie if they would have teased Galactus. Like, they should have had the surfer flying up towards the cloud, and you see Galactus starting to come out of the cloud, and then roll the credits. Oh, boy, you've got a third movie. But no, he goes in the cloud, and you hear a laugh, ha, 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 or something like that. And then you're assuming like they destroyed each other. That's kind of what the movie is leading to. They destroyed each other. It's horrible movie making. And then you go to the end scene is actually the continuation of Reed and Sue's wedding. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about a damn wedding. They're going to see Galactus. Are you kidding me? You don't end the movie. Didn't they have like an after credit scene where it showed the surfer like floating or something? I can't remember because nobody cared. You didn't see Galactus. You did not see Galactus at all. Whoever made that decision should have been smacked. Oh my God, man. Unbelievable. But you don't roll that. Now is not the time for MCU movies to be rolling the dice. People love the Silver Surfer. It's a tried and true. Back in the day, the fan mail came in like in the 60s when they first introduced the Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four. I think it might have been 1963, something like that. I can't remember when that issue came out. Months later, when the fan mail rolled in, they were clamoring to see more of the Silver Surfer. If there would have been a lukewarm response or no response at all to that character, you may have never seen the Silver Surfer again. But the overwhelming, response to the fans, they used to listen to the fans. The movie studios need to start listening to the fans. Like the old comic book. See, the new editors don't listen to the fans. They have their own higher up people in their ear. The fans used to be the higher up people. The fan, back in the classic days of Marvel, the fans used to be the higher up people. The fans used to dictate what characters you saw. And the Silver Surfer was a huge fan favorite. That's why Stan Lee and Jack Kirby from then on just pounded you with the Silver Surfer. He's got his own comic book, for crying out loud, after that. There was no fan mail coming in. You would have never had a Silver Surfer, a John Buscema Silver Surfer comic book. Wouldn't have happened. Stan Lee would have said, okay, well, we rolled the dice on an unusual character and it didn't come over with the fans. Scrap it. They don't do that now. Now they think that these characters have the privilege to exist because of some kooky idea that we have to have diversity, or there has to be equal representation, or people need to see themselves to, any character that, people think that they can see themselves in needs to exist, even though there's no smoke behind the character at all. The character's not selling books, but they keep hanging on just for stupid reasons. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I'm all for, the comic books already had diversity. You know what I mean? There was plenty of different type of characters to go around. And growing up, I loved Asian martial arts movies. I didn't see myself in the Asian martial arts movies. I don't care. It's cool. If the characters were cool, it resonates. All that other stuff doesn't matter. If the character hits and pushes the buttons of the fans, it doesn't matter what the character looks like. It doesn't matter what the gender of the character is. You can't force that kind of stuff. It's not going to work. So this forcing of a female Silver Surfer, when the fans want to see the original Silver Surfer, it's nothing against female characters. It's not hatred or getting upset or whatever, So I said, risking putting off the fan base currently to satisfy a future plot for a future movie that may never see the light of day. If the movie flops, they may just cancel Avengers Doomsday. It could happen. Word of mouth has become critical. They're literally putting the cart before the horse. They're worried about a movie down the road. They're, after the Thunderbolts, they haven't even started really filming the movie yet. They're in pre-production, I'm sure. They can scrap it. If they think that movie might lose hundreds of millions of dollars, they may scrap it. So that's kind of my back and forth on X about grown-ass men upset. It's not about being upset. It's about making smart decisions that are going to optimize the fandom's enthusiasm about seeing a movie that's critical to comic book movies. And people are already saying, I told you the comic book movies were just a flash in the pan. That's what they're saying. And that's coming from like studio executives. Because they don't like comic book movies. They think it's lowbrow shit. So anyway. So enough about that. Leaks have already confirmed the universe is being destroyed. Oh, here's one more comment that this guy made. It's a creative decision to emphasize the fact that these Fantastic Four are in a different universe than the Earth 616 of the MCU. Really? Really? That's why they're doing the female Silver Surfer. There's no other way to just make that known to the fans that you have to bring in a female Silver Surfer. You have to substitute a fan favorite for a female Silver Surfer. See, this is what actually going on. So that this guy's saying that they're in a different universe than the Earth 616 of the MCU, and why use Norrin Rad for this one-off universe that the FF probably won't ever be in again? It's not about the universe. It's about the box office, you moron. It's about the box office performing now. The executives don't care about your 616 universe. The accountants at Disney eventually aren't going to care about your little timeline manipulations, about your little multiverse. The only multiverse they care about is their box office. They're only going to give so much leeway. They're only going to give, I mean, they're not going to go on indefinitely losing hundreds of millions of dollars on this stuff like the last Captain America did. A Brave New World. Because nobody cares about the Falcon character trying to substitute. And I'm so sick of, substitute a classic character. I'm so sick of this talk about mantles. Oh, he's taking up the mantle. Shut the... no, that always got me. He's taking up the mantle of Batman. He's taking up the mantle of Robin. He's taking up the mantle of Spider-Man. He's taking up the mantle of Captain America. Get the you-know-what out of here. Shut up with that nonsense. There is no mantle. All right? It's Captain America. There's a reason Steve Rogers was chosen to be Captain America. And then Dr. Erskine was shot and the formula was lost to him. That's the whole point, because there can be only one. And they've tried that. And, in the 70s, they tried all that. They said, hey, what if he didn't, he got so fed up with the politics of what's going on with the, Watergate and the Vietnam War and all that. This was their creative way of putting that into the storylines, instead of just saying, oh, Nixon bad, Vietnam bad, and lecturing the audience about Vietnam and corruption in government. Instead of lecturing and the writer like slapping you in the face with his political opinions, they said, what if Captain America became disillusioned with the idea of America? And we're not gonna be divisive about it. We're not gonna try to separate the audience. We're not gonna be divisive. We're not gonna turn off one one political leaning of a reader to another. We're gonna do it in a creative way. And he's gonna quit. He's gonna become nomad. And then they get some football star. And then the football star gets his butt kicked and almost gets killed. And then another guy, like another athlete guy, says, hey, I can be Captain America. I can take up the mantle of Captain America. And then he gets killed by the Red Skull. And Captain America's like, oh, wait a second. I am Captain America. There are no substitutes. And the Falcon was right there. The Falcon was a good character on its own. The fans liked the Falcon character. I mean, they put him in the Avengers later. In the late 70s, they put the Falcon in the Avengers because the Falcon character was popular. And they said, well, maybe we can even push him over more. But they liked him as the Falcon. Sam Wilson, the Falcon. Not Sam Wilson, Falcon, Captain America. Just doesn't work. Oh, man. Anyway. But, the reality of the situation is these actors don't play these characters forever. They make their money. They sign the contract. When their contracts end, very few of them, they don't want to do these movies. If the money wasn't good, you would not see these guys do these movies. These guys they're looking to do stuff that's going to get them hobnobbing in Hollywood. Being big superhero movie stars don't get you over in Hollywood because they turn their nose up at that stuff. But the money is so good now that some of the older actors is like, oh, I better cash in before I get too old that I can't make any more money. Robert Redford, they had him in a small part in Captain America: Winter Soldier. So yeah, I'm gonna lend myself and give these movies a little bit of credence, but hey, they're doing it for the money. Really, he'd rather be making some kind of Sundance, film festival flick, that gets the critics all over him. Oh, he's so wonderful, and gets him in the award show. Comic book movies don't get you in award shows. It doesn't get you hobnobbing with those, with the Hollywood elite. Robert Downey Jr., I mean, he had nowhere to go. His career was on the rocks, and they gave him Iron Man, and he blew up. They must have thrown a boatload of money. They must have thrown a boatload of money at him to even come back. But he had hit rock bottom. Some of these other guys, Chris Hemsworth's never hit rock bottom, but he doesn't want to do Thor. He don't want to be in these Thor movies anymore, So anyway, that's what I'm getting at. The studio executives don't care about your Earth 616s. This one better hit the box office. This one better make them $1 billion. This better have Deadpool Wolverine returns. If not, somebody's gonna want to know why, because this ain't the Falcon. This is Fantastic Four. This is the flagship. I know X-Men are now. X-Men have been the Marvel Comics flagship, quotation marks, property for the last, the last 35 years. But it used to be the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four in the 60s and, going into the 70s was the flagship title, along with Spider-Man, of course. Spider-Man was their, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four were right there, 1 and 2. They were the big guns. The X-Men, nobody knew about the X-Men. Nobody cared about the X-Men. Nobody cared about the X-Men until the late 70s. Into the early 80s. So, yeah, but X-Men really didn't start getting over mainstream until later in the 80s. So there you go. But the studios are like, well, this is the Fantastic Four. We've got the villain right. It's gotta getting Galactus right will override the female Silver Surfer in the end. If Galactus is so cool and they don't screw it up, people are a little bit touchy about Pedro Pascal being Reed Richards. I understand. I don't really like him as an actor. I would rather had the guy from The Office, John Krasinski or whatever his name is. I'd much rather have him. He was in the Doctor Strange movie as Reed Richards. But anyway, the Galactus will override that. That's the failing. If the you won't, it'll die down. The criticism of having the female Silver Surfer will be buried by if Galactus is so cool. I think the movie looks cool. The Galactus looks good. Yeah, you can always nitpick stuff. I just have to wait till I see it. But I don't care about the Thing, little physical nitpickings of the Thing swimming and pulling a Oh, the chain will break. That's just silliness. That's just going out of your way. I try not to go out of my way to look for criticisms of these trailers for these movies. I really don't. I take them as as I see them, and I just give an honest response. And the thing that I just don't understand is the female Silver Surfer. Why not hedge your bets? Why are you gambling like that? Oh, because it's some kind of plot or 616 in a different timeline. Just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. So anyway, enough about that. See if there's anything else that these guys said. There was one other little thing. Rob Liefeld had a book signing for the Young Blood at Golden Apple Comics this week, and there was somebody right here in the comments. The average age is between 30 and 50. Not a good sign. Laugh my you-know-what off. Okay. And this guy says 30 to 50-year-olds have the money and the kids. They want to see the stuff they grew up with, and by doing so, the next generation finds out. That's not good enough excuse to gloss over the fact that comics used to be sold to kids, and now the only people buying them are middle-aged men. I don't buy into that. I believe in the 60s, comic books were marketed toward kids, a younger audience. That's pretty obvious. But I think what happened as comic books got more sophisticated, and then in the early 70s, comic books got dark. Like they started talking about drug use, and you started having the horror comics, and it just wasn't the Jack Kirby Fantastic Four stuff, and it became a lot more sophisticated. It became a lot more violent. You had characters starting to be killed. They had to have they had some silly comics code and all that. That just made people want to buy comic books even more. But I think comic books, they pleasantly were surprised that older people liked the comic books actually more than the kids. And so I put in an anecdotal. This is anecdotal. This is from my personal experience, of course. But I responded, back in 1980 at our local comic book shop, I was 11 years old when we had a bookstore that had a used bookstore on the edge of town, actually had half of their building as advertised as comic books. And they had comic books up on the wall. They had comic books under a display case. And I had never seen comic books anywhere but grocery stores, a newsstand, like a spinner rack out of a bookstore in the mall. But the only place the comic books were on is spinner rack. They didn't have comic books anywhere else in that bookstore in the mall. Only on the spinner racks. That's where the only place I had ever seen a comic book was spinner rack. Every once in a while at a department store, they'd have like a package of comic books like in a bag, like in a plastic bag, and there'd be 3 or 4 comic books in there. It was marketed toward kids. There was always like an Electric Company presents Spider-Man or some sort of kiddie, like really young marketed comic book that was marketed towards someone really young. They were trying to get, it was maybe $1.50, and you got 4 or 5 comic books in this pack. I'd never walked into a store and seen comic book section. And this is the first time. This is a rundown building, used bookstore, but half of it, the whole crowd was comic books. Like when I went in there, I very rarely saw anybody looking through the book section. It was always they go into the room that said comic books. And it was all guys that were between I was one of the few kids. I was 11 years old when I went in there. Me and my buddy. We were the only kids I'd ever seen in there. Like if I went there to meet other kids to talk comic books, I'm talking to a 25 to 40-year-old. And here I am as an 11-year-old kid having discussions with a 30-year-old dude about the Marvel Universe. And like they were taken back about like, oh, you're a kid. And I was like, oh, no, I treat this serious. You know, this is my serious stuff. I never saw any kids in there. I didn't. And that was in 1980. Now, that's anecdotal, of course, because I lived in a middle-sized, smallish town, you know. So I'm not talking about some mainstream metro area or something like that. But, I mean, it had to be, indicative of things that are going on elsewhere in the country, I'd imagine. So I didn't see kids in there. Like they came in, there was like I had talked to the owner of the building, the owner of the bookstore, and his name was Bruce Bright. And he had his mother, he's a guy, maybe 40. And he had his mother who was probably in her 60s. She was actually running the counter like most of the time when I went in. She was the one that gave me the slip for my poll folder, and I filled out, I checked this one, checked this one, checked this one. I gave it to her, but she always kind of rolled her eyes like, oh, this brat in here. Oh, boy, he didn't have any money. I had my paper route money, but she was wanting people come in that were going to spend. I never spent $20, $30. I mean, we're talking 1980 too. That's a lot of money. But she was wanting people to come in and look at the wall books and display books. They had Iron Man #1 for $40. It was in great condition. It was in $40. And it was like, wow. We come in and stare at it through the display case. Like, wow, $40 for a book. I'm 11 years old. I'm getting maybe $7, $8 a week on my paper route, if I'm lucky. That's my candy bars. That's my video games in the arcade. That's my movies. And my mom might throw me $5 every once in a while. They had the money. It's just like, I'm not going to spend it on you and your stupid stuff. Now, if I needed school stuff, like serious, they wanted to spend their money on what they wanted to buy me, not what I wanted them to buy me. So I got enough toys at Christmas. Like Christmas was a time where I got what I wanted, and my birthday. But from week to week, it wasn't like that. Week to week, I had to spend my own money on the stuff I wanted. They weren't going to go out of their way. Like I said, every once in a while, my mom might throw me $5 to shut me up from crying and, throwing a fit on the ground. But, at 11 years old. But that's how I rolled. But as I had to have my comic books. But that's what I'm spending my money on. I'm going in there and I'm spending I might go in there and spend $2. And she's wanting people so she'd roll her eyes. So she would ignore me and talk to the 30-year-old guy that might spend $20 or $15. That was their moneymaker. And buy, some of the books, the collectors. And I wasn't really a collector. I was reading this stuff. I was leaving it on the coffee table and my mom would put drinks down on it, stuff like that. So I had to argue with him. I said back in the 80s, I was one of the few kids in there. It was all people 25 to 40 years old in average. Maybe the vast majority of buyers were kids in the 60s. Things have gone to shit since the 80s and have gotten worse ever since. The difference is kids were still buying comics in the 90s, which is why X-Men and Spider-Man and X-Force sold so much. Now those kids have mangas and video games, and comic fans are dying of old age. Well, that's certainly true. They got a point there. But still, the point remains is it's kind of a myth that comic books have been just like there was a stigma. I grew up with the stigma, collecting comic books. When I was in elementary school, you would get teased for having a comic book. I would bring a comic book into school in my backpack, or I'd roll it up, put it in my lunchbox or something, and I would try to sneak it. I remember my music teacher, they would give us a music book and we would have to sing, and she'd be playing the piano like in 5th grade. And I would put my comic book in front of there, and I would move my mouth to act like I was singing, but I'm sitting there reading comic books. This is like 1977, 1978. I'm sitting there reading comic books, and and the teacher caught on to it. She saw me one time. I kind of started spacing out, and she walked by and saw my comic book and took it, and I never saw it again. But it was kind of, I don't know why I brought that up, but it's just kind of comic books weren't accepted when you were a kid. So I hate I hate comic books. All my friends knew, even in elementary school, that I love comic books. That's all I freaking talked about, Godzilla and comic books. But it was frowned upon. Like if my kids were if the kids in the class were in that kind of mood, they'd give me a hard time at recess. Like, oh, look at that comic book guy, stuff like that. I'm not making that up. I'm not exaggerating. That happened like they were still my friends. I didn't get beat up or anything, but there was some teasing. But the big thing was, if you were poor, you got teased. If your shoes sucked, you got teased. So, I always made sure my mom bought me like the in style of shoes. So I could always say, oh, look at his shoes. His shoes suck. And that would take the emphasis of my comic book loving off of me, put it on a kid, some poor kid or something. Yeah, it's terrible. Kids are terrible, but I'm getting way off the topic, but it's a myth that comic books are marketed toward kids. Yeah, there's advertisements in there for like kiddie shit, but that just kind of goes with the territory. But the people buying it, they know the kids aren't buying it. They know the adults are buying it for the kids. So they, if the adults end up looking through it, they might see, or the kid might see the advertisement and say, hey, mom, dad, buy me this out of this comic book. But, as the time goes on in the 70s, the comic book crowd got older and older and older. And I still think it's always going to be that way. Of course, you have to get that, it's kind of a myth also that you have to get the new generation. When the generation gets older, they can always, if the comic books are good enough, they might start gravitating toward them. But right now, they'd rather look at TikTok or some other social media. So anyway, it's kind of a myth that comic books are just for kids. I always hated that because I saw differently. I saw a lot of 30-year-old guys that I know they felt creepy talking to an 11-year-old kid about comic books, but they did. Like, there was a club at the university, and it was all graduate students in their 20s, maybe 24, 25. And I was like 14 years old, and I used to go to that club, and these dudes were weird. But we all sat around and talked about comic books, and I'm 13, 14 years old, and I'm talking about the artists that I like and the writers and all the storylines. And I had to like earn their respect because they were getting real deep into the lore of all the Marvel universe and DC and all of that stuff. And I had to let them know that I know what's going on. And finally, they accepted me in their group, and it's a little creepy, but anyway. So, yeah, I had one or two friends that were really into comic books, but they lost interest. By the time they were 13, they lost interest in it. And if I wanted to talk comic books, I had to talk to someone older. Like when I went to school, none of my school friends knew anything about comic books. They knew the Hulk was on television. And I said, his real name in the comic was Bruce Banner. He's saying, no, it's David Banner. I saw it on television. I was like, that's not right. It's Bruce Banner. And they didn't believe me. And because they knew nothing about comic books. So, yeah, it's it's a little bit of a myth. It's anecdotal, though, of course. So, yeah, I'm going to stop talking about that stupid stuff. I want to look at some old Fantastic Four. before I look at my comic book a little bit. I want to see if the Thing ever battled underwater, like on the ocean floor, and I'm pretty sure he did. Let me bring up my window here. I keep having to assign my window. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's not always about kids and comic books. You can't force that stuff. I just thought it was cool. I got into comic books, I think, at the right time, right in the mid 70s, where stuff was just starting to get like really cool, in my opinion. Because even, in the mid 70s, when I started, when I would like look at back issues, because sometimes they would have back issue bins, and I would look through and I'd be able to read, I would be able to look through and thumb through and see some of the old Stanley Jack Kirby stuff. And you could get some of the old stuff, if they were in terrible condition, you could get it for like 50 cents. You could get some of those issues back in the day, in the mid 70s, because, they're only like 12, 13 years old at that point. So they're not like, super expensive yet. And Marvel would reprint a lot of the old classic, in the new format in the 70s. They had Marvel Presents and Marvel Tales, which was Spider-Man. So I got to read a lot of old stuff even in the 70s when I was young. I'm like 7, 8 years old reading that stuff. And even at 8 years old, I thought Jack Kirby's art looked, I liked it. The very first Marvel comic book I ever read was a Jack Kirby Fantastic Four, but just 2 years later, I was like, oh, that's dated. Once I've seen John Byrne and George Perez and other artists, you see other artists coming on, the Jack Kirby stuff looked dated to me even back then, even though it wasn't all that old. There's a lot of the John Byrne stuff, but I want to see, I have a couple issues in mind. I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go way, and these are some of my favorite issues. There's Galactus against the High Evolutionary. That's a great issue. May have to look through that. Here's Battling the Silver Surfer. That's Len Wein and Rich Buckler. Here's one. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Here's one where the Thing is battling Namor. I love this version of Namor's suit. It's so cool. Let me see if I can't. I'm going to have to adjust that. No. Time is it? Man, it's 3:12 already. Let me undo the cropping of this a little bit so I get more of the full cover. Oh yeah. I miss the comic books with the floating heads. Sometimes they wouldn't even have the circle cut out. They just have the floating heads. Sue Richards is mine till the day I die. Mister, you just said the magic word. So the Thing here, oh no, he's defying physics. He's standing on a rock out here in the ocean. And Namor pops up, and there's a net. Where'd the net come from? That's on Johnny. I mean, we can nitpick comic book logic and physics. Let me move this down a little bit. I think this is from 1974, maybe 1973. I'm going to see. Oh, that's cool. That's Rich Buckler. Okay, where were they when they popped up? Okay, what happened to the? set down his little sky cycle thing. Human Torch flies up ahead, but all of a sudden, splash. What happened to the cycle? All of a sudden, the cycle's going to see. Oh, he's on the cycle. I didn't see it there. You can barely see him still on the cycle. I was like, what happened to it? But Namor pops up out of the blue here and just smashes him. But there happens to be a rock like right out there in the ocean. So now they're underwater. Okay, Namor and the Thing are now going to battle underwater. He's even stronger. He's even stronger than me in the water. I don't know why he's attacking like this or how he got to Pennsylvania. So they're not in the ocean. They're in a lake in Pennsylvania. And Namor appears in Pennsylvania. Okay. Comic book logic. Do I care? Not really. I just want to see the battle. And Namor smokes him under the water. Easy. Okay, where'd the net come from? It's an asbestos net. So Namor must have had an asbestos net stashed away with the weights on it and everything. More comic book logic, but I don't care. The fight is epic. All I care about is the fight. As long as it's not too ridiculous. As long as the ridiculousness, you have to give a little bit of leeway to the ridiculousness of comic books and even comic book movies. That's got to carry over. So I'm not going to get outraged about the Thing carrying. Hey, how you doing, Blaze? What are you doing? I'm not going to get carried away about the Thing hauling the boat on the harbor, and they're saying, "Oh, he's not strong enough to do it." Or it doesn't make any physical sense that he can do that. And there's a rock formation out in a lake, in the middle of a lake in Pennsylvania. I don't even know what lake this would be, but it's just comic book. It's comic book logic. So yeah, and later on, there's scenes where the Thing is battling. Right here, here they are at the bottom of the ocean now, because the Submariner has this big mechanical contraption, and they're down in the bottom of the ocean. This isn't Pennsylvania. There's no sharks in a lake. Is that a shark? Well, that'd be, there's no sharks in lakes in Pennsylvania. So these arguments these guys are making to nitpick these movie trailers. Like I said, the biggest issue of the Fantastic Four movie trailer is the freaking the use of a female Silver Surfer. That's just a stupid decision to make. But here they are battling underwater. How are they breathing underwater? Because, Sue Richards has a bubble on her head, but they took some sort of oxygenation pill technology that Reed Richards. It's comic book logic. So let's quit nitpicking about the Thing towing a boat in the harbor. And that's why you're not going to go see the freaking the movie. Anyway, enough about that. So I'm going to get into my comic book a little bit here. Let me switch scenes here. God, I have no idea what I'm doing. I haven't done this in so long. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. Yeah, I might give it a chance. I'm not saying that I'm skeptical about any MCU movie. We've had that discussion, and you were right. The MCU's about dead, dude. Deadpool Wolverine was cool. It was all right. It wasn't as good as, like, if the female Silver Surfer is hot, then I'll give it a shot. That is the attitude of a lot of people that aren't invested in it. I myself Love the Fantastic Four. I was reading Fantastic Four when I was like 6, 7 years old. It's my very first Marvel comic I ever read back in the 70s. I want them to be accurate, but it's not. I mean, that won't make or break the movie for me. If Galactus is cool, I don't care what they do with the Silver Surfer. I would prefer the Norrin Rad Silver Surfer, of course. But yeah, if the female Silver Shalabal or whatever, if it works, then I'm gonna forgive it if everything else works. I'll give it some leeway. The main thing I'm worried about, they got to do Galactus right. Everything I've seen from that trailer so far, I have a little bit of enthusiasm over the movie. Even though I'm not crazy about the casting, some of the casting, I just think they should have went with the original Silver Surfer because they don't have any more time to lose. They can't afford to take chances. They can't. They've got to optimize the chances of success for that movie. Or man, if the FF flops like the Captain America 4 did, which I thought it was going to flop anyway. If the Fantastic Four movie flops, I know we've said this before, but it is done. That's the final nail in the coffin and bury it. I wouldn't care. Oh, yeah. If Galactus works in the context of the movie, and the movie works 85%, there can be a little bit that's off. They can't be off like the last Ant-Man movie was off. It can't be off like, it can't be off like the last Thor movie, which I don't think it will be. But Galactus is going to be what I'm worried about is Galactus is going to be in the movie like 5 minutes. And I'm like, really? I want to see Galactus for the last, he better be in the movie for the last 40 minutes of the movie. And it better be bam, bam. I just don't want to see talking. I want to see him get down. I want to see some of the other heralds of Galactus teased. Like I've got other dudes I can bring to destroy this world. I want to see the world on the edge of being, eradicated by, whatever device he's bringing down or however they're going to do it. They better do it. Just do it like Kirby and Stan Lee did it. Have Galactus bringing down a device that he has to end up calibrating that'll drain the earth of whatever energy or whatever, and the earth dies. And they better. I saw the scene in the trailer where it shows him stomping. He's stomping through the city block a little bit and destroying the building. That was pretty cool. I was like, okay. And then you see the shadow of his helmet and everything. They better not screw it up, man. Because if the reason the other Fantastic Four movies didn't work, in my opinion, was, Doctor Doom was horrible. They have screwed Doctor Doom up something terrible. It's just, how do you screw up Doctor Doom? It's unforgivable. It is unforgivable to screw up Doctor Doom. You get Doctor Doom right, it's going to go a long way toward the fans, And that's another character that should have a streaming show. Why don't they do a streaming show called Latveria and start with the origins of Doctor Doom? It almost writes itself. There's no way you can go wrong with it. You have to be going out of your way to go wrong with it. Anyway. So anyway, this is my comic book, Primal Strike. And I really haven't looked at it like on my own thing. Rob Norton looked at it on his YouTube channel a little bit. But yeah, I finally got it out last January. But I really haven't done much with it. I've been mailing it to friends and stuff. I've given more copies away than, I mean, I sold like 7 or 8 copies. I gave some copies to a comic book shop. Hollywood directors have too much ego to get some things. Yeah, and I mean, they're kind of bound to the executives as well. The executives step in and, hey, that's I my theory on the female Silver Surfer, and this may sound bad. They looked at the last Fantastic Four movie and said, okay, we Michael B. Jordan was Johnny Storm. That wasn't the problem. It didn't make any sense to do that because they were making kind of a fan fiction Fantastic Four. But they want to do something like on the diversity level of the main cast. But they're saying, okay, well, let's just make the main cast. Yeah, that movie was beyond belief. I couldn't believe how bad. There's no way you can greenlight that movie. There's like, okay, we'll make Johnny Storm a white guy again with blonde hair, and we won't gender swap anybody, or we won't make Ben Grimm a black guy, or we won't make Sue Storm a black girl or a Latino girl or something. But we've got to do something. That's my theory. Like we'll make the main cast kind of accurate. Pedro Pascal shouldn't be cast as Reed Richards, in my opinion. He might be really good. I don't know. I'd rather see John Krasinski or whatever his name. I'd rather see, for one, he looks more like Reed Richards. If you put the gray on his, Pedro Pascal doesn't look like Reed Richards, especially with the mustache. But like I said, that's the one small thing I can forgive. But they were like, well, we've got to do something. My theory is like they've got to do something. Okay, the Silver Surfer, we can. Hey, wasn't there a female version of a Silver Surfer that appeared in a handful of comic books in the 90s? There you go. I mean, Michael B. Jordan it's just nothing against Michael B. Jordan. I know characters Michael B. Jordan could play in the MCU or the DC universe. It wouldn't be the Human Torch. I mean, he could be Black Panther. He could be Bishop. He could be, it might be a little short. I don't know how tall he is. I don't like the guy they had Luke Cage. I would have rather seen Michael, what's his name? Michael Jai White as Luke Cage. The guy that they had play Luke Cage in the Netflix thing, I don't hate him. It wouldn't have been my first. I would have wanted, they made him too slick. Luke Cage is a little more, yeah, Michael Jai White. The guy that they had play Al Simmons, Spawn. I think that was him. Yeah. He's not the greatest actor. I think he's gotten better. He's like a martial arts guy, but I think his acting got better. He was good in The Dark Knight, the role he had in The Dark Knight. But he could play Luke Cage. They got to grunge him up a little bit. I don't want Luke Cage looking too like suave. The guy, that's kind of the word I'm looking for. The guy that played Luke Cage in the Netflix to me was too clean looking, too suave. Luke Cage is a little more down and dirty. You know what I mean? That's the way. And they've got, I don't like bald Luke Cage. I like the Afro Luke Cage. I like him with the metal band around his head. I like him with his chain. I want an old school tattered yellow shirt. That's the badass Luke Cage, man. I love that character when I was a kid. I was like, I was walking around with like a swing set chain around as a belt because that character was just so badass. I was like, oh man, that character's cool. I couldn't see myself, but I didn't care. I loved Luke Cage. Those Luke Cage comic books were awesome back in the 70s. And then they teamed him up with Iron Fist, and I was like, oh my God. Take my money. Yeah, that Iron Fist Netflix show. Oh boy, yeah, could have been really good, but I was like, who's writing this garbage? But this is my comic book, Primal Strike. I wanted to show. I was going to show. I'm going to end up posting this on a comic book Discord. The whole reason I'm doing this is to have a link so I can share it on a comic book Discord, because I wanted to show some of the concept, some of my cringy ass concept shit when I was going to make my comic book. So let me bring up, like I said, I don't have this prepared or anything, but I think it's kind of funny because there's a lot of people on that Discord that are talking about making their own comic books. So let me bring up my page where I've got all my designs for my concept stuff for my comic book. And if I can find it, it's pretty hilarious and cringy, but it just shows you what you can do when you hire a good artist. And I did. I mean, Rafaelo Salas is, I love his art style. I looked at some other guys. I scouted some artists on some sites like Instagram and stuff for a couple months, and I just couldn't. I found one guy, but he wouldn't respond to me. I guess he didn't need the work. I don't know. He said commissions open on his Instagram, but he would not respond to me because I think maybe he thought I was like soliciting or trolling or something. I wanted to give the guy, I was serious, obviously. I wanted to give the guy work because I gave this guy work. But here is the, let me change scenes. Here's my cringy ass concept of the people in that comic book artist Discord. There's what I drew. It looks like a sixth grader drew it, but there's my concept for my original logo for Primal Strike, and there are my characters, and I drew it, and I just slapped a little color. I wasn't going to go all out. Well, this doesn't look nice. I mean, this is, but you can see up there, you can see what he took. He took this, and I thought he was going to laugh at me. And then this is what he ended up with. I can even make that a little bigger. This is the final version of my main cover. I had a variant cover made as well, but yeah, he of course he changed the order, and I told him don't have the frog have guns because I wasn't sure how I was going to depict the frog character to have the guns, because I don't want the frog ever to be disarmed. And there's like a plot point in the third issue where it wouldn't work if they could just disarm the frog. So I didn't want the guns to be physical. So I ended up making the frog being able to manifest like energy weapons. So I told him, leave the guns out. I just drew the guns for reference, but they're not physical guns in the comic book. And the same with the blade on the lion guy here. His name is Scythebane. So I was gonna give him like a Grim Reaper from Marvel Comics, the Grim Reaper scythe on his arm. And I was like, nah, that doesn't work as well. I want him to be able to manifest an energy scythe when he needs to. So that's what happened. So I told him to leave out I told him to change the pose of the lion and don't put like this crude blade, stupid looking blade I put coming out of his hand. I mean, I drew this really fast. I didn't, because it's like I finally got this guy hired, and I was like, oh crap, I don't have a concept yet for my cover. So I went home after work and I threw this together in like maybe an hour or two, and then I slapped some color on it. I can do a little better. I could have done a little better job, but nothing like he did. So let me see. Where's my next picture? What happened? And there is my back cover by Ezekiel Rubiolo, who I might try to hire to do the interiors for my second issue. But my inspiration, I didn't draw, or actually I did, but I can't find it. I drew, this is what I showed him. I got to assign these windows one at a time. That is the wrong. You don't want the frog to have guns. I don't want the frog to have physical guns. I'll show you in the comic book what the frog does. The frog, all the characters are genetic, or have animal DNA, alien technology, and human DNA. So the frog can generate energy weapons. Yeah, so I didn't want the frog to have like physical. It wouldn't make any sense to have the frog have an old style cowboy 6-shooter because the Earth has been destroyed. Like the Earth doesn't exist anymore. It's been destroyed. So there'd be no guns. You know what I mean? So it was created by an alien guy, like the High Evolutionary was the. So yeah, I had to solve that problem of I don't want physical weapons. Where in the hell is this picture? Here it is. Here is my inspiration for my back cover. Now this is from a Cable comic book from Marvel. This is Grizzly, and that's Domino and Grizzly. I'm not sure who that character is. I can't remember. But I saw this picture with the rocks and everything. So I showed this to the artist that I hired to do my back cover. And I said, and I actually had drawn a picture somewhere. I had drawn a picture with my characters in there, but I pretty much just used that picture as reference from straight out of the comic book. I know it's kind of cheating, but that was kind of what I did to give him an idea of what my back cover looked like. And I cannot find my original drawing that I did. I can only find my comic book page screenshot that I used reference on. Oh, well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's somewhere. Who knows? I've got so many pictures. It's crazy. But here's what I'm talking about with the frog. Properties. This is what I'm talking about with the frog. This is the basic. This isn't the finished work. This is the rough thing he gave me to okay. Hey, how you doing? Oh, so that's from Rob's Discord. Someone saying, how you doing? This was the concept of generating the energy weapon. Because I told... Let me find my... Let me find my... I'm trying to find my... Oh, I know how I can do it. Where is my picture? I'm not set. Here we go. This is this is what this turned out to be. But this is the frog character manifesting the energy, the photon 6-shooters. Because, like I said, in the third issue, I've got a plot. I've got a part of the story where the two of the characters get captured. And if they could just disarm the frog character is one of the characters that gets captured. It's going to happen down in issue 3 sometime. We're talking way down the road. Issue 2 won't be out till like 2026. But I had to solve the problem. I was like, they could just disarm the frog, and then the frog is screwed. Because that's basically the frog character's bread and butter are the energy weapons. So I said, I know, I'll just have her manifest the energy weapons just by alien technology. That's her like cybernetic ability. So like, you know, it's the frog character is the most animal like of all my characters. Let me bring up another picture here. If I can find it. Here we go. Wait, delivered art. No, 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 no. Say the yeah, this guy has armor on. Like he's the Radigator, the reptile warrior guy. He's the most human of the bunch. Underneath his armor, he's going to turn out to be, now he's disfigured and he's reptilian a little bit, but he's between the girl character, between the energy vampire character and the reptilian warrior guy, he's kind of the most human acting of the bunch. Like the genetic sampling of the alien technology didn't take as much. The human DNA came out more in him. He's actually wearing a suit. Like I plan on having him like with the helmet off. Like he's going to have a face reveal somewhere down the road. I've already plotted, like I said, I've plotted the first 3 issues. But eventually he's going to take that helmet off and he's going to reveal what he really looks like. He's more armored. This guy, the lion guy, is much more alien technology. He's much more of there's not much human left in him. There's a little bit of human, very little, maybe like 10-15%, but he's like he's much more alien cybernetic. I wanted them all to have different levels of how the experiment when they were created like took effect. Obviously the frog character is much more looks much more like a frog, and she's like halfway between. She's got the wings, but she's like second most human. But the lion guy, there's nothing left of him. He's more alien. He's more alien technology than anything, even like lion DNA. So, which was taken. So that's kind of my plan on that. So I didn't want like physical weapons on the frog at all. Like that would have made 0 sense. And she's also going to be able to manifest an energy rifle, because Annie Oakley in real life, and that's what the character's based on, was like a rifle marksman, like a circus act, kind of like a sharpshooter. So from what I'm understanding. So that's kind of my thoughts on the concept of this. Let's see if I've got any of my early designs, like my cringe designs of these characters. Oh man. Oh, I know one. Let's see. I should have had this set up better. I thought I had my entire but it's not. I can't find it. I can't find my file. Dun, 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 dun. Trying to find some of my. Where's my lion guy? It's pretty cringy. Well, what happened? Here we go. There's my original concept of the lion guy that I sketched out. And like I said, I'm no artist, but I had to have something to give. And if I bring up the original, let me add another window here. Window capture. I'm not prepared here very well. I thought I had that file, but I can't find it now. Let me crop this over. There we go. So you can see my cringy cover concept. But there's the lion guy, and I drew him with the spike on his I drew him with the like the blade, like a Wolverine blade coming out. And then I told my artist, leave that off, leave that out. Don't don't you dare put that in, because once again, it just wouldn't have made much sense. So I told all the artists, leave the weapons off of the characters when you're doing your final art. Do not include the weapons, because they'll see the weapons in the book if anybody looks at it. But yeah, my original concept was having all these guys with weapons. But that's kind of my original. Let me go back to. That's my original drawing that I made of the lion guy, and I kind of got lazy and didn't finish him. I have a hard time when I'm doing like a sample for an artist. Like, this is kind of the idea I had. I never finish it because I can't draw feet I can't draw with a crap anyway, but I can't draw feet. I really can't draw, and I really didn't know what I wanted his armor to look like. So what he came up with was cool for the look of the armor. I was real happy with it. And the insect guy, let's see, this was my original concept of the insect guy. Not the main character, but like the minions, the insect minions. So let me bring up a picture of those. I thought it'd be fun just to look at some of my cringy concepts. You know, if I can make a comic book, like Rob said, you know, if I can make a comic book, good God, talented people should be making comic books like crazy. Of course, I hired a guy, you know, to finalize, but I worked on this stuff months. You can't really tell, but I'm trying to find here we go. It's not really a good representation, but yeah, if I can come up with cringy ass like here's the final. Now that the guy up there with the big yellow eyes, he's the boss guy. He's Bloodshower, the main boss guy that's guarding the nest in the domain. But this was my original concept for the minions. Oh, I told him, I said, look, you're the one with the talent. Because he looked at some of my drawings like, oh boy. And I said, look, I had seen some of his portfolio, and he likes to draw kaiju monsters. So I was like, run with it. I said, I give you freedom. Just kind of make it somewhat look like this. You know, if you got a different cool idea in mind, do it. Don't think that, you know, I handcuffed the guy enough with the storyboarding of the panels, and I'm almost embarrassed to show my storyboards that I gave him, because there was some that he thought, oh, that was good, and there was a couple that he was like, are you serious? Are you serious? I'm gonna have to change this. And I was like, I said, go nuts with it. I don't care. As long as it somewhat represents what I'm trying to get through. So, you know, I think he did, you know, in looking back, the head design is freaking silly here. Really. This, you know, his design is much better where they're hunched over. They're supposed to, the original idea was they're supposed to be like a mutant tick, like giant desert. I know it makes no sense. Giant mutant, like armored tick creatures that have been mutated by that radiation. The Earth has been destroyed for like thousands of years. So, you know, I wanted to have like a Thundar the Barbarian theme where the earth, I love that beginning of the Thundar the Barbarian animated, one of my all-time favorite animated. I own all of them. I bought them all. Where it shows a runaway comet goes between the earth and the moon and it cracks the moon. And when I was like 11 years old, that was the coolest to me. That intro was the coolest freaking thing in the world for Thundar. I was like, oh my God, sword and sorcery and the earth. So I wanted to have like a devastated earth in my comic book. I said, no matter what the other plot stuff is, I'm throwing that in. I'm throwing in an earth that has been decimated. How I'm going to get there yet, I'm not sure. I'll make it up as I go, but I knew I wanted no human beings in my comic book ever. And I just wanted the earth because I always loved how they went from area to area, like old Manhattan. And then, and then they had these rat creatures. And then there was like those lizard creatures, like the race of lizard creatures in the swamp that they fought. And then they went to St. Louis, and then they went out to Hollywood. And there were the ape creatures that were trying to resurrect. Oh, the Sun Sword's awesome. Yeah. It's lightsaber. Who cares? I always thought the Sun Sword, it was kind of silly how he just put it on. It just kind of stuck on his armband. I can let that stuff go. Like, people now today, oh, there's no way that would stay on there. It's comic book stuff, man. Come on. Have some leeway. But I like when he went out to Hollywood and they were trying to resurrect the mechanical King Kong from the movie. That was badass. I was like, so all that stuck in my head. And I was like, yeah, I got to have a decimated. And there's going to be different zones that my characters go to. The Sun Sword, it has to be. Well, yeah, that's probably what it was. I didn't even think about that. It was magnetized to his wristband. And what was funny about the Sun Sword is it doesn't look impressive. The handle is like real simple, but I loved, like they could have done some kind of elaborate, like the Sword of Omens or even Conan's Atlantean sword or whatever it is. It's got that elaborate, I don't know swords. What is a hilt or a hand? I don't know what it's called. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I just wanted to push that theme of a decimated earth. It had the wasteland earth is what I came up with. So when I was coming up with all this, simple was better in Thundar's case. Yeah, the hilt. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But they could have gone elaborate with it. My point. But it didn't matter. It didn't really matter. I remember when I was a kid, I was kind of like, this sword kind of looks dumb. But when he made it go on, I was like, oh, that's cool. Energy sword, lightsaber. I always just called it a lightsaber. But and then he had to go that one episode, he had to go and recharge it, and it ran out. That was cool. I don't know why I brought that up. I'm trying to think what other concept stuff. It's like, oh God. I'm trying to look at some of my storyboard stuff and I can't find them. I'm trying to look at, oh, here we go. Oh boy. I found them. Oh, this is embarrassing. What is this page? Hold on. I know you can't. I haven't assigned it to a window yet, so let's look at. Here we go. Yeah, this is pretty silly. Here's a storyboarded page that I did. So I'm telling you, if I can make, so does book have certain creature types for certain areas of that? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. No. Are there ticks in the desert? I don't think so, because those are supposed to be giant tick creatures. Now, there's a swamp area. There's going to be a swampy area called the Nether Zone, and it's like antithetical to life. and there's a character, there's a villain there that's going to control the environment. And I got that from the G.I. Joe movie from 1987 with Cobra Law. I don't know if you know anything about G.I. Joe animated. A lot of the G.I. Joe fans hated that Cobra Law idea. I loved it. I loved the whole Cobra Law with Globulus and Pythona and Nemesis Enforcer. Yeah, Nemesis. Yeah, so I love that stuff. Like I was 18 years old when I was seeing it, when that came out, and I just was like, some of my friends that I talked to were like, "Oh, that was stupid," and I mean, parts of it were kind of so ridiculous, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I like the fact that like the vines can come up and attack the Joes, and so there's going to be in issue 2, there's going to be a region called the Nether Zone, and they're going to go there, and this character who I haven't completely designed yet, but he's kind of like the Globulus kind of guy, and he can control he can make the vines come up and the tentacle. They're not vines, but they're like tentacles. He can attack you with the environment, and he's really toxic, and it's a swamp, and he's kind of got a bodyguard that's a bit. You get a sneak peek of his bodyguard in the first issue that I had. Let me show I'm all screwed up here. Let me show. That was the storyboard right there. So let me close that. That was my storyboard, and that became this. God, I'm not very prepared. I got to find these pages. I wasn't expecting to go through all this, but that board looked good. Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't think any of my stuff really. I mean, you got to remember, I did it really quick. I gave him 3 pages at a time. Where in the hell? Here it is. Here is that became this. I apologize for the delay and I should have been better prepared. That storyboard that you looked at became this. So yeah, I mean, he changed the angle of the guy. He made the guy escaping like the back view, and then I just kind of told him, do the best you can. Yeah, it's enough to work with. I can draw a little better than that. Not much better. Like if I really take my time, I can draw nothing comic book worthy, but enough. But I put less and less time as we kind of got the flow. I mean, this went on for like 7 months because I was sending him 3 pages at a time, and he was inking and coloring, and it's not super detailed, but I mean, he did a good job coloring it. I told him I wanted crisp colors and kind of animated color, looking colors. And that's kind of his thing anyway, Rafael Salas. It's kind of in his wheelhouse anyway, because he does, I saw his portfolio. He does a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. He likes to draw that kind of stuff. Yeah, you don't need to, I could have done stick figures really. But I had a lot of this done but I didn't send him any dialogue. I sent him the plot. I sent him a couple pages of plot, but he had no idea what the characters were saying. Now, every once in a while, when I'd send a little text note to him, where saying this guy's saying this right here, so you can have that expression. He's going to be saying something like this. I didn't get real detailed with it, but that's kind of how I approached it. But yeah, I mean, I think he knocked it out of the park. It's not everyone's bag. I understand the art, the cartoony art style. I did this more for me. It's what I wanted to see. I was like, I'm just doing this for me. So just to say I did it, I'm losing money. I don't care. You live once, right? I mean, Yeah, I think it looks great. It's about 95% of what I visualized in my head what I wanted it to look like. And that's pretty damn good coming from somebody that's really never made a comic book before. Let me try to pull up. Um, that was the girl creature. I was referencing the Scarlet Witch a lot and kind of a cross between Dark Phoenix, like Paul Smith's Dark Phoenix, and I mean, you can't tell, but that's about the best I can draw, and that's like looking off of reference stuff. You know what I mean? So, where is my actual? Oh, here it is. This has got all my pages. This is what I was looking for. Duh. Now that I've already looked at, like, this character, like this page right here, where was my concept art? Because this is a character that doesn't really get, he's going to have time in the second. Like I said, I'm not prepared for this. Where is my, I knew I was going to do some of this, but I thought it was going to be a little easier. Here it is. Why is that like that? Well, this is not right. Something happened. Let me, this was my pig guy. The pig guy. You can't really see him. I don't know why it turned out like that. But I drew this pig. This guy already existed on the planet. Like he was part of a later mutation, but he's actually like an engineer. He's actually like his name is Dr. Sude. And yeah, he's a pig mutant guy, but he's like super intelligent, but he's a little bit absent. He's kind of scatterbrained, but he's got the whole point of that character is he's got a link. I'll just have the last page come up here. The last page of the comic book. Oh, yeah, I can show this. I traced this. That right there, I traced it. Yeah. I drew the pig guy in the cockpit, but I traced this from I used assets from Clip Studio for the smoke and the rubble, and I forget where I got the mech. I traced it from a book, but I changed it. I traced the rough outline, and then I just slapped some blacks in there. I worked on this for like a month, like 15 minutes here, 15 there, because I didn't know how I wanted the mech designed. But I told Raffaello that I traced that. That was some 3D asset stuff. That's where I got it. I traced it off of a 3D asset. And I said, don't make the mech look like that. Like, use your own idea of a mech. Because I'm not going to try to steal somebody else's crap. You know what I mean? But I put the two. So let me show the final page of what this turned into. This turned into, oh, that's the wrong freaking, I haven't done this in so long. I have all this elaborate setup and I never use it. It's freaking, I don't have a whole lot of time, but, here we go. That's the final page of the issue without the text and the blurbs and all that. But this is what I sent Raffaello. Yeah, this is what I sent him with the traced 3D asset. The only thing I drew myself was the pig in the cockpit. But then I said, don't make the mech look like what I did. Design your own mech. And he's got the whole thing about this character, which you'll see in issue 2, is he's really gonna be an ally to them because they don't know who they are yet. My characters do not know what's going on. They are just like pawns right now. So they start discovering that there's some low down dirty stuff going on in the plot, and that they don't like being pawns. So this guy is eventually going to be an ally, but he's got a psychic link to his mech. He's got he's implanted like technology, so he can actually, the mech can speak to him, on a like on a technology level or however you want. But he's got like a kind of like in Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim was my inspiration there. You know how they get in there and then they have like a mind meld thing with the mech. And that's kind of what I wanted this guy to have. But I wanted to make him a pig. For some reason, I wanted to make him a pig, like a mutated pig. But he's like an engineer, scientist, mechanical engineer kind of guy. So, boom. Hey, Rob, what's up? I saw something. But that was kind of my idea on that. And I said, next issue, title here. I didn't know exactly what my title was going to be for the next issue, so I came up with the swamp, like this. It's like I want to introduce the swamp region, which I gave a little bit of a preview of the swamp region in my first issue. Like you see one panel and you see the creature that's going to be the bodyguard for the big bad, the main boss villain of the Nether Zone. I called it the Nether Zone. I couldn't come up with anything for the swamp region, but it's like it's antithetical to life. Like it's not a good place to be. It's kind of like the Cobra Law. It's like a smaller version, dumbed down version of Cobra Law in the G.I. Joe movie, basically. But like the environment attacks you at the behest of the villain, of the main villain of the region. But each region is going to have like a boss, like they do in Thundar the Barbarian. When they go to St. Louis, there was like a main boss villain there. Manhattan, it was Gemini. He was the main, he brought the Statue of Liberty to life with his magic. So every region of the wasteland Earth is going to have a boss villain. Blood Shower is the boss villain of that desert region, but it's going to be a smaller scope. They're not going to be able to travel the globe. It's going to be comic book logic. Like, they might travel a few hours and be in like a totally different region. I might even have like a savage land, like an Arctic savage land type region. That might be down the road. But like I said, I've only got 3 issues plotted. But that's what I sent Raffaello, my traced. Let me show some more. Like I said, I'm not set up very well to show some of this cringy. The cool thing is I do have all the black and whites. I have all I've got all the roughs and I've got all the black and whites from the comic book as well. I've kept everything. And I put it on a thumb drive as well to back it up. I'm trying to show the original, like this was the original. No. I keep clicking on the wrong thing because I haven't done this. This was the original. This is my splash page. This is what the Troubled Evolution. I wanted to come up with a better looking, so I made it like even with the railing of the Arceledian Architect Council. That's one of the empires that's in play in the storyline. But I ended up getting rid of this red Troubled Evolution Part 1. I left out the Part 1. I just put Troubled Evolution. And some of this has changed. Like some of the dialogue's changed. St. Louis, that's where I was born. Yeah, Thundar has there's an episode of Thundar where he goes to St. Louis, and I forget what happens in that episode, but he goes to St. Louis, like, old St. Louis or whatever if you've never seen Thundar, Blaze, you should watch it if you can. It's from 1980. It's really good. It was on Saturday mornings. Great cartoon. Great stuff. But that was my. Now let me find my concept art that I oh, this is embarrassing. Let me find the original concept. Here it is. That was my original concept art for that first page. So he ended up changing it. He zoomed in on the. Let's see if I can. If I only were prepared. Here it is. Now let me change that window. Wrong. I clicked on the wrong damn thing again. Here we go. That became this. Because I had him originally standing in front of a hologram image of the three Arceletian architects of the high council of that empire. Yeah, originally and I told him, I said, is there any way for you to do a hologram, like Darth Vader in the original Empire Strikes Back? You see him standing there and he's bowing, and then you see the hologram looking picture of the emperor. I always thought that was cool. So I was like, I want my art on the right is the little one. This is the full disclosure. I traced that bottom picture of Lord Devos. I traced that from I kind of roughly traced a picture of the High Evolutionary. I traced a picture of the High Evolutionary. No, man. I worked on, this is one of the very first things I drew a year and a half ago. Like when I was coming up with the concept. This is before I hired an artist. I traced the rough outline I brought up a picture. I took a screenshot, and it's not the only time I did that. And I traced, there was a picture of High Evolutionary. I think it might have been from a Fantastic Four comic book. It was from some older Marvel comic book. So full disclosure, I don't draw that. I have to have some help to draw that well. And it took me a long time, and I put word bubbles in. I don't know why. Because I didn't think I was going to find an artist. It took me a couple of months to find the right artist. But yeah, that top is the hologram. And he turned it, I sent that to Raffaello, and he turned it into this page. Because I told him, I gave him a rough, like I said, I didn't give him any dialogue, but I gave him a rough plot breakdown of every page. And I sent him a 3-page overview. It might have been 2 pages. I can't remember. Of text overview of the entire issue, of the entire plot, like the backstory. And then every time I sent him 3, I would send him 3 pages at a time of my storyboards. I would add a little bit of dialogue, like this is what they're talking about, but I wouldn't have specific dialogue. So he kind of knew, like, to point the finger, like they're accusing him of treason. So that's why he made these guys point the finger. They made the middle guy point the finger. And I said, don't show their faces, because that's later in the plot. The plot in a different issue is you start to find out not everything's on the up and up with this council of these guys. They're like, I kind of based them on, there's some characters from a Hulk comic book from like 1977 where they had a plot. Bill Mantlo and Lynn Wein had a plot thread going on for like 2 years in the Hulk. They're not holograms there. They're actually in the Arceletian homeworld council chamber. And like, they're high technology guys, but they're also kind of like druids a little bit. Not that, I mean, they look like druids, but they have like a code. They have like a code that they think they're better than everybody else. Kind of like the Sovereign from the Guardians of the Galaxy. So the idea changed from the original. Exactly. he didn't want to do the hologram thing, or I kind of said, don't worry about doing the hologram thing. Just make him in a council chamber. Like, he's on trial here, basically. This guy, Lord Devos, who's based off of the High Evolutionary, he's basically on trial here. And I told him that, like, when I broke down the plot, and I told him what he was saying. So he made his eyes look this way because they're accusing him of some crap, but he doesn't care. He doesn't abide by their stupid code. He thinks that they're losing this war with this savage race of like space barbarians that don't have a code. Like, all the technology they have, they steal, they plunder, they destroy. And they're losing the battle over the millennia to that race of savages because they won't do what's necessary to destroy the other race because it's not in their code to do so. So he's tired of it. He's basically like, you guys are calling me treasonous, but I know what I have to do to destroy these guys. And they're coming, and they're not going to leave anything. They're going to kill all you guys, and there'll be nothing left, and they'll take all your technology, and then you're done. So that's kind of what I gave to Raffaello. Like, this is the idea I'm giving you. And he's like, oh, okay. And then this is what he drew. So trying to see if there's any other cool. He kind of, through the months, he kind of gave me a, oh, and this is actually also, he kind of turned it into 2 pages. Because this is the black and white of the actual splash page. So he took my original idea and turned it into this. And I told him, make some crazy looking symbols, some glyphs on the judge's banister thing here, or whatever you call it, to symbolize it's kind of alien. I said, just do the best you can. You know, I drew some scribbly crap in the background here, but originally they were going to be holograms. So, and I might have that in issue 2. I might have a panel where they contact him from their home world because he's on Earth now. They use that cosmic rift to go to Earth. So they got to contact him somehow. They're not coming there physically. They plan on coming there physically sometime. They plan on relocating their home world to Earth. That's why they need all those monsters destroyed. But they're going to have to communicate with him, and I'll probably have a hologram thing in the second issue. That's kind of how I changed my thought process when I was going, when I was communicating back and forth between Raffaello. So, but he kind of turned it into 2 pages. So that's cool. I thought he did it. I thought that was a pretty cool. Let me see if there's any other relevant I don't know, Rob, and someone saying you may not even be there anymore, but I didn't know if you had seen my original concept cover. I wanted to show it one more time. Well, I need to close some of these windows. My original concept cover. I just get a kick out of this. I get a kick out. I was almost, because this is actually the very first thing I sent Raffaello, and he's like, okay. And like I said, I told him, don't put the weapons on the characters, don't do it. I saw you show earlier, it seemed didn't see it before then. Oh, okay. I just thought it just cracks me up. So that became that. Yeah. Every once in a while, I've seen that. I love it. Every once in a while, I'll come back and go just to get a kick, just to kind of get me fired up about making issue 2. I'll come back and look at this and I'll go, oh boy. there's no excuse to make a comic, to not make a comic book. If you can turn, I wasn't embarrassed enough to, I mean, I slapped some color on that. I was like, paint it. I mean, but he pretty much did it. I mean, he lightened it up a little bit, but yeah. But when I first saw that picture, and even my cringy logo there that I used clip art claws that I stole, when I first saw that picture, that's what got me, because I was having my doubts. And when I first saw his cover, with that little lightning in the background and the nice color of purple, man, I just was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this. Fuck it. There's nothing gonna prevent me from doing this now. I mean, he can do this to this. I mean, let's go, But that got me kind of revved up. And originally, yeah, it came out. Originally, I was going for, this is kind of a stupid, but originally I was slapping the white, because the guy that I hired to do my logo, I had him make like 4 different colors. I said, go nuts with it. And he came up with that. So this was my original logo on there with the white. And then I've got a buddy in my Discord that I ask him second opinions a lot. He's a smart dude. And whenever I have a doubt, like I almost got scammed like 6 months ago. I used to buy and trade a lot of cryptocurrency stuff. And I have an account online. And I got an email one night saying that I was going to lose my account unless I re-upped all my online identification stuff. And I was ready to send the email out. And they would have fucking hacked my shit. It turned out to be not legitimate. It looked legitimate. And before I freaking clicked on that email to start filling out the shit, I said, let me get a second opinion. I said, hold on a second. And I got a hold of my friend in the Discord, on my Discord. And I said, hey, and he does a little bit. Yeah, I don't either. Always get a second opinion, Rob. I wish you would have texted me that day, even though I know you don't know me that well. I wish you would have sent me a text that day. I'd have fucking told you, nope, hang up. Hang up and go up there physically. Go up there physically. Yeah, don't deal with that crap on the phone, because that just doesn't hold water. Yeah. So I got on there and I showed him a screenshot of the email, and he goes, oh no, that's fake. And I said, oh, okay. And I just deleted the email and nothing happened. So yeah, I was like, always get a second opinion. They can't threaten you like that shit, man. Always get a second opinion. But anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that. But I asked him, I said, do you like the white or you like the black and orange better? And I think either one really works. But he said, I like the black and orange better. So I went with that. I took his opinion, because I was kind of starting to lean toward the black. I also have red, and I think I've got one that's oddly enough, I think it's blue. But I'm going to use the red one, red and black, for the second issue, for the cover of the second issue. Yeah. But seeing if there's any more. I think it stands out, and that's exactly what he said. Yeah, I need he does graphic web design a little bit. He's got like a degree in that. So I was like, let me hit this guy up, and let me get a second opinion. Let me see if there's any more. Here's a storyboarded page. Oh boy. Here's a storyboarded page I did. And this turned into, God, I'm everywhere on this. Let me close some of these windows. I closed too many windows. You can tell I don't do this a whole lot, and I should do it more, because I've invested in all this setup, and I just don't do this crap anymore, because it's like, nobody cares. Let's see. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I'm looking for that page where he's trying to hitch a ride and he gets smoked. I should have all these pages in order. Let me see if but yeah, anyway, that's the storyboard where he has attached himself and you see him in the distance. God, I want to find the page. Because this is one of the pages that I told him I want it to look how I want it. Don't take too many liberties with this page. So he was like, okay. The next time I might even try to, God, I can't find it. I should have this shit in order, but I don't. This is pathetic. The next time I might send them a plot and see what they come up with. But I don't know. I wanted the panels to look how I wanted. You know what I mean? I can't find the here it is. I found it. Not that it's that big a deal, but this is like him sticking to the script more. This is him like taking me more. I mean, he changed the angle because this on his page, it looks like she's. For one, I told him, give me a little room for word balloons because I had totally forgotten. Like the first 10 pages that I sent him, I was like, shit, what am I going to do about word balloons? I'm going to be covering up the art. It's just a rookie mistake. And the whole thing is there's like a vent here on this cliffside. And that leads to the pig engineer guy's little mountain lair. He's got like a little lair, like a bunker that he hides in, that he has like a laboratory and he makes, mechanical weaponry and all that stuff. And he's got his mech. But this is I was like, I need some way to get Eradicator into that lair for the setup scene of the cliffhanger. So I had the Blood Shower character blast him off of and here's one of the things that I didn't. This is one of the mistakes. I wanted to see that because he's attached by his energy whip, and I was like, I forgot to tell him that give like the remains of the energy whip like coming off, like show the energy whip a little bit, like he's getting blasted off of being dragged, with his energy whip by the flying mutant pet thing that he rides on, that Blood Shower rides on. And I forgot to tell him to put the whip because it would make more sense. He's getting knocked off and there's some of the whip still coming detached. So that was kind of the thing I saw later after I had already told him, yeah, that page is good. I verify that page. And, and I was almost going to go back and have him add the whip in. I was like, you know what? Nobody's going to care. I think about it when I see the page, and he also moved the Siphon character over a little bit, like she's about ready to take off and fly. And he told me that. He was like, I had to change that angle because my panel here doesn't really make any sense. Like, of course, I wanted her looking up at them in the distance, flying away. And she's like, hey, I need to go help this guy because he helped me earlier, so. And then the laser blast, he pretty much, I used some Kirby Crackle brush on Clip Studio there, compressed Kirby Crackle. But this right here is a 3D asset that I bought with my clip points off of Clip Studio that's on top of the cliff. And he falls through. He ends up, the whole thing is he falls through that vent, and that's how he gets down into the lair. So that's how that turned into that. So I thought it was pretty, I thought that page turned out halfway decent. I was struggling to figure out how to end it, like how can I get him into the lair? I took a little while thinking about, I had to change my plot a little bit you got to make changes on the fly, to fit the art. Because I had to make the dialogue and the plot fit the artwork. Obviously it's got to make sense. So trying to think of another example of what I drew and then what he turned it into. Because I go back and I was like, it's all kind of a blur now. It's like, yeah, here we go. Here's one. This is kind of a rough example, and he did a way better job. Let me put mine up in the corner. Oh, I put it on the wrong one. I'll be running into that a lot soon. I can motivate myself on my wishful thinking project. You can always use the other version on another cover, one of the darker covers. Yeah, that's what I plan on doing. I screwed this up. I got this backwards. Like I said, I haven't been on OBS really in a while. And that did not solve it. What the hell did I do? Oh, because one's on the display, on my Huion display. Never mind. That's good enough. So let me find the page. Let me see if I can find the page. I know this is tedious. Okay, there's the one with the ongoing artwork. So there's the page where Blood Shower blasts them. The page after where you have the reveal of the bad guy. Let me see if I can find. Here we go. Like I had this page where he announces himself, like he sneaks up behind them while they're killing all the minions. And then this page turned into this. Here we go. And he totally changed this. Because I had a problem. I couldn't draw Blood Shower getting off of the mount, getting off of his flying giant tick mount, or whatever the hell that monster is, which he did a awesome job drawing that. That came out. That's another one of those moments where I got excited. Now, originally he forgot to put the wings on, and I had to have him go back and add the wings. I said, you forgot the wings. He's like, oh, man. He goes, I made that layer invisible. He goes, I didn't make that layer visible. He did that a couple times. Like I said, the dude's busy, and I was his side thing. I was his side gig. So I was like last priority, which that's fine. I'm a nobody, so. And I'm still paying the guy, but, he told me up front, he said, I've got another project I'm doing. I've got an NDA on it, and I might be late on a couple of your pages. Like every once in a while, I'm going to be late. It's going to be close. And I said, that's fine. I said, I'm not really in a hurry. I don't care. I just want it to look like I want it to look. That's I said, I have no obligation to get this out. I'm not on a deadline, So he was cool with that. But this, I didn't know how to draw the villain. Like this doesn't even make sense. See, he comes down and he questioned me on this. He goes, okay, he comes down and he blasts them and they're on the ground. Then all of a sudden they're standing up and there's the ship in the background. And I drew it horrible. Yeah, see, I'm not going to pay an editor. I'm not going to pay an editor. Guess who's the editor? I'm the editor. Yeah, I'm a bad editor. I don't care. I'm the editor. I can't afford to hire a whole team. I gotta, I did the best I could. Yeah, that's me. All I can do is yell at myself. I was like, wait a second. My panel, see, they're down on the ground, and then all of a sudden they pop up, and I put this, I've got some Clip Studio smoke brushes. I need all the help I can get. So I put some smoke here, and I told him, yeah, that's the smoke. And the best to have at least 2 pair of eyes on the thing before. Yeah, if you're really like running a crowdfunding, I agree with you. If you've got an obligation to other people, I agree. The only person I had an obligation to myself at this point was me. I didn't have anybody's money. I didn't have anybody waiting on the book. You know what I mean? I'm not, I understand you're 100% right. I'm not lecturing you. I'm just saying I agree with you. But in my case, I'm going to be the only eyeballs. Now, I've got a couple buddies now that I got a guy at work that said, when you're done with issue 2, run it by me, because he loved my issue 1. Like, I gave him a copy and he came in work the next day and he goes, what happens in the next issue? And I was like, you actually read it? I was like, Jason, you read it? He's like, yeah, I loved it. And he's not even a comic book guy. He's like, he goes, when is issue 2 coming? And I was like, I may not even do an issue 2. He's like, what? He goes, oh, I thought it's going to be out like next month. And I was like, dude, yeah, he doesn't know comic books that well. Like, he knows, like, he's on like a, he'll listen to like a Kevin Smith podcast. That's his delve into comic books. He didn't even know who Frank Miller was. So yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go on. He's a good dude, but I gave him a copy because he'd been asking me about it. Because I kept telling him, yeah, I'm still working on my comic book. He goes, I can't wait to read it. So I was like, oh man, you must be hard up. So yeah, he come in the next day and flagged me down and was like, I got to know what happens in the next issue. And I was like, dude, maybe I should have sold one to this guy. But anyway, there's a sucker born every minute. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. Anyway, back to I get off track. Anyway, I was like, yeah, you got to change that. I said, problem is, Raffaello, I don't know how to draw a monster dismounting from a flying monster that can barely draw in the first place. And my monster looks like a freaking retarded praying mantis. I was like, I don't even know what I was doing. So, I mean, look at this arm. I mean, you talk about some Liefeld proportions here, right? And then the crew is up. He's like, why are they standing up? I thought they just got blasted. And he's like, so I changed the whole plot. I was going to have all the team fight Blood Shower, but Annie Croakley gets knocked out. She's not in the comic book anymore. And I said, that might make the art go a little faster as well. So I'm going to have her she's the most vulnerable of the crew because she's got no armor. So I said, that makes sense. I'm going to make her knocked out for the rest of the issue. And then in issue 2, the lion character is going to be standing over her at some point, like in the first couple pages, like going, wake up, you little swamp creature. Get up, because the lion gets right back up because he's the most indestructible of all of them. He gets right back up and gets in the dude's face, and then he gets blasted all to hell. But yeah, Annie Croakley gets knocked the hell out by Blood Shower's laser blast. But I could not draw. The point is, I can't draw. It was another problem that he solved for me. So he's like, why don't you just show him standing? He goes, I'll just show him standing by the mount. Now, I've never spoken to Raffaello. It's all through emails. Our whole back and forth was nothing but emails. So I follow him on Instagram, but I've never talked to him. But he come back to me and goes, I mean, the guy knows comic books. He knows how to stage, because he kept telling me, when's the action starting? He goes, I'm kind of getting bored drawing your backstory. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to lose him. So my first 7 pages, there's not a lot of action because I've got to, there's some conflict building up, but so that's why I kind of had to change things a little bit from what I originally intended. So I wanted to get into the action just to keep him happy. I was like, maybe he'll bump me up the list a little more if he knows he's drawing action, because he likes to draw action. Like, all his portfolio is nothing but action. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kicking ass, and it's monsters fighting, and it's Spider-Man knocking some dude out, So, I was like, okay. So I was like, you're right. Where am I going with, why are they up like nothing happened? So I was like, I'm going to leave them down, and like, oh boy, I'm hurting. Like Eradicator says, oh man. Now, my head was already hurting. I'm toast now, you know. And then he's got the smoke in the background coming up, and he did a better job, obviously, than my crappy digital ink, my digital asset smoke brush that I have on my Clip Studio. But anyway, that was another example of my bad storyboard turning into. Here's another example of me tracing. I was like, wait a second. I'm going to trace. This one's really funny. This one's really funny. Let me show this one. To me, this is funny. This is me really cheating. Why is that not? Why did that not come up? What the hell? There it is. Page. Okay. And it didn't change. Is it a? No, this is actually. There it is. Okay, I had the wrong window. Like I said, I should have set this up a little bit. This is really me cheating. Let me bring up the what it turned out to be. And I told him I cheated. I mean, it's an obvious cheat. Look at the top panel. I can't draw that. I traced that entire face. Now, I drew the shoulders and I drew my helmet on the guy, but that face, I can't draw that. Give me a break. I drew the background here, scribbly, dibbly background. I drew this crap, but I used his that center panel. I traced his design of one of the creatures. So let me bring up the what page am I on? It's the one where he's alerted from proximity. Oh, here it is. There it is. So that turned into that. That face I digitally traced from a Peter. That's, believe it or not, that's Peter Parker. That face is Peter Parker, and I shaded it. But I traced the fuck out of that. Believe it or not, that's Peter Parker from a Spider-Man comic book from the 90s. Because I was like, there we go, in proximity alert, and then you've got the monsters. Now, he kind of cheated on the middle panel, and I told him it was okay. I would not have called that. Yeah, isn't that weird? Because it's an artist that kind of makes Peter Parker more grown up looking. I forget. Someday if I find the panel again, which it doesn't matter. I think it was an issue from the 90s or maybe the early 2000s. I was expecting to say, it looks like Magneto. But that, I fucking swear, it's Peter Parker. But you would be able to know, of course I didn't add the hair. I drew the helmet on him for my character, Lord Devos. And I told him, I said, look, man, I didn't draw that. And then down there, obviously, I used a cutout of his earlier, I graded out, I did grayscale, and then I made a cutout of them. So that's exact. But I like what he did. He made them, see, they know now that they have a cybernetic chip implanted in their heads, because he says, Lord Devos, in the earlier page, says, I've implanted a chip I've got a cybernetic chip in your head. I control you with this artifact that I have on my chest. This artifact that I've smuggled off of the home world illegally, and that's why they're after me, because they don't know I have possession of this powerful artifact. So he can control their wills by that artifact. And the radiation that destroyed the Earth, it's like a miniature version of the weapon that destroyed Earth. So that he's made wearable. He's engineered, without the council knowing. So, but he cheated a little in this middle panel because he's using an image there on that viewfinder view screen. And I told him that's okay. You can do that to save time a little bit because nobody's gonna know. Like Lord Devos, they're approaching the hull and the hull of the ship that we're on, that's landed. We're being attacked by these mutants basically, and proximity alert, and I've got the sound effects in there. And there's like, okay, go and defend go. This is your true test. But yeah, I cheated bad on the storyboard. He kind of laughed. I told him right there. But I drew the center panel. I referenced a comic book when I did it. Like I brought up a page of a comic book. I think it's a Fantastic Four comic book. That's one of Doom's henchmen. And I kind of changed it to for my own purposes, but I kind of looked while I was drawing it, so yeah, that's as good as it gets, man. That's as good as it gets from me. So one thing I do want to do is learn to color. I've been researching digital color because I might have to end up coloring my own comic book at some point just to save money because it's getting expensive. Like issue 2 may have to be colored by me. Oh boy. And I would have to take my sweet ass time and meticulously go over everything. So it might take me 4 or 5 months just to color the damn thing. So, but anyway, that's and I wrote up there page 16, so yeah, and then I would send him a text. I would send him an email saying, this is what's going on. And this is what the, kind of the gist of it. But that's kind of like some of my examples of how I produce my comic book. I'd never really talked about it or showed anything, so I thought it'd be interesting to show some stuff. My some of my tracing and my cheating and my reference. But let me show one more before I wrap it up. Example. Let's see if I can. And this one is a little bit more cheating. See if I got the right window this time. I did. All right. This is my original storyboard for one of the pages where they're in the tubes. And this is Lord Devos, and he's operating the controls. And let's see let me bring up the picture. Let me bring up what it turned out to be, which is kind of the thing I used. It's kind of the iconic page of their creation. There we go. That's the page I used for the shirt that I designed when I got my shirt. I used that picture. I cut out the picture and sent it to the t-shirt printers. I got to send my buddy a t-shirt too. He's been waiting. He's wanting a poster and a t-shirt. And yeah, he actually bought. He was one of the first to go on Indiegogo, and my buddy from Discord. So I said, you do that, and I'm going to send you later on. I'm going to send you a poster of Rob Norton's, Chuck Gibson's art, and because he really liked that black and white. He thought that was cool. And I just actually sent out a copy of that issue, copy of this one today to my buddy in Colorado, who was really loving that black and white. Like everybody that I've talked to is like, yeah, that's good, but I want the black and white one. And I was like, okay. And I didn't charge my buddy. I just sent it to him. We've been friends for about a decade. He's a comic book guy too. He likes older comic books, but he really dug he's a big fan of the Tick. He likes that Tick. And I said, you probably wouldn't like my comic book because I know he likes like Alan Moore stuff. He goes, no, I want a copy. He goes, I like silly kind of, Yeah, no, everybody wants this one. I think I'm not going to do a variant for issue 2. I think I'm going to do a foil cover for issue 2. Instead of a variant cover, I'm going to put some resources into a foil cover. Do a foil cover like a gimmick, you know what I mean? But I might end up having somebody do a variant cover. Who knows? But anyway, this is what this turned into. I sent him this. This top panel is a cheat. That top panel is from Silver Age Comics. That is Ultron. That is actually was Ultron, but I drew the reference and then I flipped it. Yeah, I sat there. I brought up the panel on a digital comic book. It's from an old Avengers from like 1966, I think. It was one of the first appearances of Ultron, where he was the Crimson Cowl, and nobody knew who he was, and then they revealed he was Ultron, and it was revealed that Hank Pym created him. It's before he created the Vision. So before the Ultron created the Vision to destroy the Avengers, but it was from a panel, and I just thought the panel looked so neat, of Ultron reaching over and doing a switch. So I said, I'm going to have Raffaello make it look different anyway. So I said, don't make it look like this. So what he actually made it look like was in the previous page. God, someday I'm going to get this right. Primal Strike comic. Well, this is ridiculous. Now I'm screwed. Let me close some of these windows. I've got too many windows open on my Huion here. Here we go. Here it was. This is what it was. I was wrong. That was the wrong picture. This is the picture. This is what this turned into be. He would sometimes combine the pages if it made more sense for the sequential storytelling. He would combine because right here in the finished comic, I say back on the ship. And this is this guy seeing them land. But here's the scientist guys, and the energy is flowing where they're actually uploading the genetic data to the tubes to create the Primal Strike force. And this guy's saying, this is no good. Because I told him, we talked about this one. We had a back and forth. Raffaello and I had a back and forth on the emails on this one. Because he said, you really need to add something. And so I ended up telling him, add a henchman in the background here, like going, we're not going to be able to control these creatures. What are you doing? And then I sent him the slap. And then Lord Devos turns around, slaps the dude like Dr. Doom would do. Like, get away from me, you insolent dolt. Don't question me. You know, but that's him like doing the panel clicking, like starting the upload process for, and then the next panel is the slap, is what I'm referring to. He's going like, the next page is like slap. So I added stuff. Some of my storyboards were like lacking. So he kind of was like, he didn't want to like piss me off or anything, which he wasn't going to, but he didn't want to like he's a real nice guy, you know, as far as I know. He was real respectful. Like, and I said, dude, you don't have to walk on eggshells with me. I told him, I said, you see something that you think is stupid or crap, call it out. I'm about the final product. I'm not about trying to not get my feelings hurt. I don't give a crap. You know, if it's crap, you tell me it's crap. I want to make it, I'll change it. I said, I'll bow to your superior talent, creativity, and, just because I read a lot of comic books from back in the day doesn't mean I know what the hell I'm doing when making a comic book. I think I know a little bit, and I have a decent imagination, but I'm going to leave it to the professionals. That's why you hire people I'm not looking for people to like, oh, I said, I told him up front, I said, don't worry about hurting my feelings. If you've got to say, I can't do this, then tell me straight up, offend me, whatever. I do not care. I don't roll that way. I want the comic book to be better, as good as it can be, But there was a couple pages where I said, I want this to kind of look like how I want it. You've got a little leeway, but he's like, okay, that's fine. So that's kind of how, so it went pretty well. We didn't have any major, there was no major, it went better than I thought, actually. So I just can't afford him. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to afford him for a second issue. Because I'm willing to give up I have some, a little bit of extra finances, but I'm not rolling in it. So I've got to temper it a little bit. I'm willing to go. I think I might have put, with printing and everything, not that anybody cares, but I might have put, between all the printing and all the art, I think I put about $5,500 of my own money up, which is fine. I don't miss it. You only live once. You know what I mean? But I'm really not I could put that money down on my house to pay my house off. I'm like, I've got a sweet deal on the mortgage of this house. So I don't care if I ever really pay it off. It's my last priority. My interest rate is like rock bottom low, so I'm not worried about it. But that's probably more than I want to spend on a second issue. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to look for ways to cut the costs from here on a little bit. I have to if I want to do a second issue. Just being practical. So, but anyway, that's another example. So, but I thought it might be fun to look at some of I've got loads and loads of stuff I could show, but some of it's just kind of stupid. Some of it's just bad. I might do a second little video someday down the road of showing. The beautiful thing is I've got everything. I've got his basic let's see. I've got all the pages like this. And I've got all the pages with the finish line art doesn't have the shading on it, but I do have the so I've got the rough. He'd always send me this. Not always, because I was so happy to have an artist and I was loving everything he did. Like for the first 20 pages, it ended up being like he did 37 pages for me total, I think. For the first 20 pages, he would make sure that he sent me this and had me okay it. And there might be, and I said, look, I said, I trust you. At a certain point, I was like, you don't have to show me. Go ahead and start. It'll probably be a small change. So I said, start the line art on top of this without waiting on me to get back. Because there might be a 10-hour delay of me at work and I can't get, you know what I mean? Life gets in the way. And it was slowing the process down. I said I was trying to speed it up just a little bit just because I wanted to get it done for myself. Not that somebody was waiting on it. So I went ahead and started giving him the green light to just say, hey, man, start running with it. Go ahead and do your, I said, if it's any change, it's going to be a small, quick change. He's like, oh, perfect. He didn't have a problem. So he quit sending me, he still did this, but he quit previewing it to me. And I still ended up downloading all of them when he, through the email site thing. I ended up getting them all of them, even though sometimes I didn't, the last 10 pages, I didn't even bother him showing me the rough. I was like, just show me the line art. And I think I made him do one little change where he forgot the wings or something. It was something stupid because, I was starting to it got to a point where I was building up where I was starting to want to get it. I just want to get it done. This had been going. I hired him last May, and we're into like November, and I was like, yeah. I want to go ahead. I like all your art. Go ahead. And I got less picky as it went. I don't think the book suffered much for it, so it's not perfect, but anyway, it's the best. It's the best thing I'm ever gonna do with my lack of vision. So, but anyway, that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I've been yammering. This is the most I've talked in a long time. This is the most I felt like talking. I finally feel much better. I went through months of just misery with my freaking, I don't know if it was allergies or the winter or I don't know what it was. I just I couldn't get my shit together. But today I was like, man, I feel pretty good today. I'm gonna ramble on about some comic books. So, well, anyway, I am gonna get off here. I'm still gonna. I might post a link to this if Rob doesn't care. Maybe in his Discord on some. Just Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Like I said, I might delve into. I might do some as issue 2 goes. I might start live streaming a little of my process of getting issue 2 off the ground a little bit. I've already started roughing the cover. I'm not going to show. I appreciate it, Rob. You're really. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people are like, no, you don't. I've ran into that before where people are like, don't you dare post any thing, blah blah on my stuff because. This, you know what I mean? So I really appreciate how open you are. I'm not going to post any old thing, but, if it's comic book related, yeah, sure. Yeah, make sure it's comic book, personal comic book related, no doubt. But, yeah, I'm going to get out of here. I've rambled on. I have a bad, the older I get, I just start rambling on stupid. I think it's definitely mental decline. I hope not, but I just start rambling on about stupid shit. People at work are getting annoyed about it. There's a lady at work that told me, shut the fuck up the other day. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Rob. Like I said, you're a good dude for doing that. Because there are people, I've run across it. Trust me. Nope. I don't want you talking about any of your crap. Or any, if you're not talking about my crap, you can't be talking about anybody's crap. So anyway, I'm going to try to do this a little more often if I feel better. I've got the setup for it. I might as well put it to use. It's just sitting here collecting dust. So maybe I'll get my shit together and see, I can change scenes and everything. I'm not even using this crap. I don't know I don't even know. I need to reprogram all this stuff. But anyway, I'm going to get off here. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got a kick out of some of my rough shit going.